I'm not gonna get mad during this debate, okay? Nothing will happen. I will not get mad. All right. I'm perfectly calm today. Okay. You have no idea how calm I can be.
Anyways, yeah, Ethan Klein, you had some thoughts.
Yeah,
we dabbled a little bit on the pod. Why don't we unpack it a little bit more?
So basically, I have this view that I think that we need to be clear regarding what we're talking about in this controversy. Are we talking about the legal justification for a lawsuit? Are we talking about the ethical justification for bringing the lawsuit, by which we mean ought the law?
By the way, I do not care about anyone trying to prime me before this debate, okay? People are saying, oh my god, you have no idea, there's no way you can be on Pisco's side. You don't know that. I took Pisco's side for the Ethan Klein stance, right? Who knows? Maybe I'll agree with Pisco, okay? We'll see.
Lawsuit be brought? Or are we talking about like other misconduct? Does that affect the ethical outlook? And I kind of have different views on this lawsuit, and I can talk about my incentives for even commenting on it. But in general, I think that a lot of my views have been misconstrued or misinterpreted to be something that they're not. And I think that what I'm proposing is not actually of like a very controversial view at all, and that most of the disagreement with my view has to do with like perceptions about my motivations or about relevance or emphasis. And so that's basically like kind of my starting set of assumptions is like, let's be clear about what we're talking about and let's see if we agree, and then let's talk about why it matters.
I don't know if I have a strong interest in having a conversation about ought the lawsuits have been brought. That's not really the thing that interests me too much, because well, that's let me give you a point of contact. That's a good question. So like that to me is like the least part of the interesting part of the conversation, because like that seems totally subjective. Like, and it's difficult to unpack that. You know, like I don't know what I would do if I was in his if I was in his spot. And like you for example, I think you said that he has a strong case, right? So like if these laws, if these copyright regulations or statutes or whatever they are, if they exist and somebody abused them and he's, you know, using the legal mechanism to get a remedy for that, then you know, are we saying that that
if you had an avenue to go after your enemies using the law, using some technicality, why wouldn't you? If your enemies are sapping your life, if your enemies are accusing you of child abuse, if your enemies are slandering and abusing you and doing all kinds of horrible shit to you, why shouldn't you use the law to take revenge or to dissuade the forces that are trying to attack you right now? You're in the middle of a war, so you gotta fight like you're in a war. Who cares if you use like a sneak attack or not? Who cares if you're using dirty tactics, right? It's like as Thor says from God of War Ragnarok, right?
If you're not fighting dirty, you're not fighting, right?
If you're not really fighting dirty, you're not fighting, are you? Right? Yeah. If you're trying to go after snarkers, you don't need to fight fair. You don't need to abide by international rules of conduct for warfare. You can literally go ham on them because they will go ham on you. That is the agreement here. It's tit for tat, right? The anti-fans and the snarkers go full throttle on you. Why shouldn't you go full throttle on them back, right? What, they're going to use the excuse? Oh, we're just a bunch of smaller people. If you go after us, it's just bullying because we're all smaller than you, Ethan. Well, that's the problem with the Mujahideen or with, like, you know, Al-Qaeda or ISIS. Yeah, they're all smaller than the United States. What, you're just going to let them, like, bomb mosques and do crazy shit? No shit, Sherlock. Yeah, of course you're gonna go after them. What the fuck? That's fucked up. Just because they're smaller doesn't mean that they're good, dumbass, or immune to harm. Hey, if you enjoyed the content, I got more for you. It's on my second channel, which is Snack Markets. I'm trying to get as many subscribers as I could. Obviously, even though I got monetization, I'm trying to reach monetization with ads, so I'm trying to push it to 1,000 subscribers. We also got a Discord server. It is discord.gg/Foodshops. We have a pleasant community. It's strictly moderated. It is just about the most sane drama community that you can ever be a part of. Now, you can also follow me on Kick. That's kick.com/Foodshops. I put all my VODs there. The VODs are not on YouTube. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can find me at notfoodshops, and that's about it. Thank you.
That means that it was justified, or like what kind of angle are you going for here? Like, do you want to have a conversation about should he have brought the lawsuits?
Well, I think that's a conversation that a lot of people do want to have. Whether you want to have it, I'm not sure. But just to give you a point of contact, I stopped by your stream a little bit recently and I said hello. But I heard you talking about like the propriety of like Denims' statement and analyzing whether she should have said this, whether she was throwing Kaceytron under the bus. And so in that context, what we're really talking about, whether it's subjective or not, listen, I take all this kind of normative analysis to be subjective in the sense that we're just talking about what do you think about ethics? What do you think ought to happen? I do think that people have a desire to talk about the underlying ethical justification for all sorts of things, including but not limited to legal action taken by individuals. And I think that there's a lot of people who care about that. And I think that you care about, regardless of its subjectiveness, the ethics of certain people's conduct surrounding this, including the ostensible triggering incidents that brought this about, the CPS call, the conduct of the snarkers. Like, this is all norms laden. And so I think it's a little bit much to accept that people are like, it's irrelevant to talk about ethics. It's irrelevant to talk about moral justification, because everyone's talking about it. And if someone asks me about it, I want to be clear about where I stand. And the more, and separate apart from that, I think there's a broader norm that ought be established to like not blatantly lie to your audiences. And all of us kind of like do this kind of debunking shit when there's like, if Tim Pool is accused of lying about the shooting or whatever, no one's stopping to say like, why are you calling out lies? What do you care?
But you're saying,
I can give an explanation, but
you're saying that Ethan is lying about any kind of motivation to like protect his IP, or do you call it IP or copyrighted content? And but you're saying that that's a lie because the real motivation is this like personal grievance. But why can't it be both? I don't understand why
so
can't.
We
can't
can get into that conversation, and I definitely want to have this conversation.
I mean, to me, it's very obvious that he's motivated by both, because like he's already on the record as being someone who was trying to bring attention to what he considered to be like lazy React content. And what the three people that he sued did went even beyond that. Like, it was beyond just like lazy React content. It was, we might say, malicious in nature. You say that has no like bearing on the case. It's like malice or whatever. But the fact remains that they were being malicious about it. Like, they were openly advertising that their intention was to siphon views. And it happens to be the case that all three of those people were participating in an internet pylon that was like some of the most vicious behavior from online communities that I've ever seen in all my years of being on the internet. Like, how they behaved around the whole CPS thing was fucking vicious. It was fucking vicious. And so like, I think he was motivated by both of those things. Like, was it right to bring the lawsuits? I don't know if
I feel as though Pisco is about to say, well, you see, now you're bringing in your subjective opinions when you talked about leaving subjective opinions out of it, right? Oh, well, isn't this like subjective? So then it's hard to argue for. I think Pisco is about to make the argument. We'll see if I'm correct, okay?
Put it on it.
Good luck.
But I understand why he did it. I don't know if that's a cop-out answer, but I understand why he did it.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure we're not talking past each other. So I definitely want to have a conversation about ought he have done it. But before we get into that, I just like want to make sure that you think it's worthwhile to even have that conversation, right? Like, so we're not even talking about the thing itself. It's like people will question, why should we care about these ethical oughts and whether something is good or bad? And I thought I was hearing something approaching that critique or that observation from you. And so before we get into like the actual meat and potatoes, which I do fundamentally reject the view you just presented on different grounds,
Does Pisco usually say meat and potatoes? Does he usually say that?
I want to make sure that you consider that conversation to be valuable.
It can be depending on, sure.
Let me give you a little insight here.
Because like intellectually valuable? What do you mean?
So people will say things like this, Pisco, this is a boring conversation. Who the fuck cares about whether these lawsuits were the right thing to bring or not? Or like, or someone might say something like, I don't care whether it was right or wrong to bring the lawsuit. And I just want to make sure you're not proposing those views of like indifference. Like, maybe you are indifferent as to whether it was right or wrong to do, but presumably you think that that's a worthwhile conversation when analyzing, especially now this is getting a little bit into the argument itself, but I still do want to have the meta conversation first to make sure that we both agree this is a valuable conversation that we want to have.
Picked it from JStock? No, it originally came from ChillLogic, and then from ChillLogic, it basically trickled down. The behavior trickled down.
For someone who presents a lot of his lawsuits or his legal stuff as vindicating some broader interest, either in a particular group or in a broader community, I think that we ought care about whether we agree with the assessments being rendered by Ethan and co.
It's not that I'm indifferent. It's more that I'm agnostic. Like I could.
Maybe that
sounds like a cop-out answer. Like I want it both ways. Like it's not that I'm avoiding taking a firm position. It's just I can understand why he did it, and I can't tell you if I would have made the same decision because I've never been in that position. I don't know what it's like to have children and then have government called to your home to like try to force you to justify that you should be allowed to continue to have guardianship over your own kids. Like, I don't know how I would have felt in that moment. I don't know what kind of actions I would take after the fact. But I'm also sympathetic to the idea of like, fuck, I mean, that must really suck to be bogged down in that kind of litigation. It's not like I have no sympathy for people like Kaceytron or Frogan. Like, even though I find their conduct to be pretty disgusting, what they did with Ethan and Hila and how they were joking about the CPS calls. And you could argue that Denims helped to enable it with the way that she was running her chat on the particular day that topic came up. And but even with all that, I'm sympathetic to like, I mean, I wouldn't want to be in that kind of a situation. But you know, I don't know if that answer is going to be satisfactory for you, but I don't know what I would do in that position. I really don't, but I understand why he did it. I do.
I don't think there's anything inconsistent with you saying you're agnostic on the ethical question, but also maintaining that it's a worthwhile conversation to have. That's what I want. I want to say those are distinct questions. Whether or not you have a firm view about whether it's good or bad is different than whether or not you think it's a conversation, that the conversation about whether it's good or bad is worth having. And what I want to avoid more than anything is someone after the fact saying, who the fuck cares about this shit? Understand. Or like you saying, I don't even give a fuck about the conversation. Like, clearly you care. We're having this conversation. It's maybe like the third or fourth time we've had a conversation about this. You have a vested interest. And you can tell by the way, I'm just going to be honest, you cover some of the other conduct at issue here, that you're weighing the respective normative weight of what the parties are doing. You're thinking about, is it good for Denims to throw Kaceytron under the bus? Is it okay for, you know, Hassan Piker to not donate? And so I think it's a little much to accept that this is a conversation that the ethics of bringing the lawsuit, who cares about that? But all the other aspects, you know, the ethical assessments of the other conduct, that stuff is interesting to me and I will comment on it. So just to be super clear, I do want to get into the question here, and let's also talk about the other issue, the legal issue, whether I think it's important or not, and the lies for sure.
I do think that not discussing the punishing the snarkers or the war is a cop-out. I think you need to talk about whether or not it's worthwhile to utilize the justice system to achieve your revenge, or to achieve some means of deterrence, if you want to put it in a kinder way, right? Because if you go after the anti-fans, if you go after your own anti-fans like that and actually deal real consequences to them, that's deterrence. It is. It just is. They are scared by that. They're unironically scared by that. The reason why they have gotten so bold in recent years, especially, is because they weaponize anonymity, anonymousness, anonymity. Okay, yeah, anonymity. Yeah, they weaponize that. And they weaponize it extremely well. They have mastered the art of weaponizing anonymity. They have gotten perfect at doing it. And you need to adapt. You need to adapt, okay? If you don't know how to handle that, then you're going to be fucked when you have anti-fans.
Okay? You think that this is a valuable conversation, or one that you're interested in. Because if you say, I'm not interested about whether, okay, no, but I want, if you want what I want, I just want you, like, this is what I want. I want us to agree that this conversation, it matters. It matters whether or not Ethan did the right thing. Doesn't it matter to you?
I don't know how to evaluate that in an objective sense, though. That's what I'm saying. I really don't. This is such a messy thing for me. Like, I don't think I can.
I don't like Hutch's. Oh, I don't like Hutch's answer here. I don't like Hutch's answer here.
Give you an answer of like, this is unequivocally bad, or this is universally bad or good
I'm not
thing.
saying, no. That's getting into the meat about whether it's good or bad. That's a separate question. I'm being very precise here. You care whether or not, like, you care about the conversation. You care about the relative arguments. You care about thinking regarding whether this is good or bad. And I think that's clear. I mean, if you're really going to say, well, I spent all this time talking about the ethical implications of Denim's conduct, of Hassan's conduct, of the snarker's conduct, but I'm not going to consider the ethical implications of Ethan.
I'll consider it. That's fine. If you have a case to make in terms of like why you think he shouldn't have made the case, then I'm genuinely open to being persuaded. Like, awesome. There's a universe where you could convince me that it was a wrong thing for him to do. Go for it.
No, but no, just because I get shared these people who really don't get it, and they're making comments like, who the fuck cares? Or like, who asked Pisco? Who the fuck asked whether this is good or bad? Like, you guys all care about this. We all care about these norms. And the proof is in the pudding. The fact that we spend any time on it, the fact that people feel vindicated and feel that this is just desserts meaning these people deserve what's going on, that is a normative conversation. It's saying this ought have happened. It's good that this happened to these people, and this is deserved. This is either a punishment or...
I mean, I agree with Pisco. I think that we all care about it. We care about whether or not it's deserved. Yes. Yeah. And I don't think you should hide from it either. I don't think it does anybody any good service to hide from the fact that, oh, I actually don't care about this. Motherfucker, you spent like 78 hours like talking about it. All you do is cover Denims and Kayagate all day. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Of course you care about it, right? Now, the real question is, what do you do? After you say that, after you say that, oh yeah, I do care about it, right? Well, in my humble opinion, I would argue that they did deserve to have the book thrown at them. They did deserve to be retaliated against. They do deserve punishment. For the anti-fans and the snarkers deserve horrible things happening to them as a result of their callous behavior. I do think that. I would argue that that's good. But I feel as though Pisco would probably say, no, I don't agree. I believe that the justice system should be used in the fairest manner. It should only be used when laws are actually being broken and you actually have a grievance with something related to that law. Well, I say different, right? That is where the real disagreement is. The disagreement isn't about whether or not you care about the issue. Of course, we all care about the issue, right? The real disagreement is, how should the justice system be used against your enemies, right? I have a few arguments in my mind about that, but
or some kind of retribution or some kind of like justice for Ethan. And that is intrinsically invoking normative assessments. And so what I don't want to hear is this kind of like banal statement that you get from the Redditors that are like, who the fuck cares? Who asked about the ethic? As long as it's legally viable, that's the only thing that matters. That shit is cooked. Agreed?
What's cooked?
The notion that the only thing
oh my God, Hutch, pay attention,
that matters
please.
is the legal argument. And this
Hutch,
is coming from
come
someone who obviously cares a lot about the legal argument. My whole reason of examining this in the first place was because it was a new copyright case, and I have an interest in copyright. And I've been following H3 for a while, and even their first case, and I actually really praise them. And if you watch my coverage, I really praise them for their initial lawsuit defense against Bold Guy. But as someone who does care about the legal argument, someone saying like the only thing that matters is whether or not it's legal or not, and whether or not they have a good case.
No. I mean, it's like it's interesting conversation, and like I can just lay out very clearly to you the pro case, like the bullish case, the case for this potentially being.
No, but I am curious what Hutch believes. I hate this. I hate how Hutch is like dodging around whether or not he thinks that they deserve it. That's part of it. You're not going to make any kind of moral judgments in any way whatsoever.
An appropriate action, and then you can tell me your case, and we can go from there.
You'll see. Okay,
but
we'll see.
So to be clear, this.
But so far, yeah, I have to say I'm a little bit on Pisco's side here. We will see. Did you read the filings? The new filing? Is there any? Yes, I've noticed that there are new filings. But I don't know if they're important enough though, because okay, well I haven't looked at them, so I can't say that. Leave to file document. It's 5 pages. It's nothing. Defendant Stephen K. Bonnell respectfully requests leave of court to file additional unredacted versions of documents. So basically what's going on, it just seems as though Stephen wants to unredact Rose's testimony to vindicate himself. I think that's what's going on. Yeah, okay. All right, that's it. That's literally it, okay? Okay, cool. Outside of that, I don't know if there's anything else. Yeah.
It's not a view that you necessarily hold. It's
no,
one that you
I have it. I hold the view, but again, there is a conflict in me. I'm just
Didn't Hutch say, yeah, so he should justify that?
100% transparent.
That's
like
right.
some things
on
I'm not.
You think it's a good thing that he brought these lawsuits against Denims, Kaceytron, and Frogan.
I think a good outcome of this happening is the possibility that creators in that space will do more to moderate their own communities.
Right, but you understand
that's the value that I see, and so that is an argument in favor of Ethan taking this action. Did it have to be this litigation action, or could it have been a different action? I don't know, but like that is the strongest case that I would make, is that these creators existed in a world where they were totally emboldened. They felt like they had total impunity. They demonstrated no sense of responsibility for moderating their own communities, and in some cases they explicitly or implicitly egged on this kind of what I view to be like significant harassment. Like it is to me a really significant form of harassment to do a CPS report, and then that ends up with a government intervention. That to me is so much more significant than the litigation.
A malicious CPS report that is based.
Yeah, but the litigation is part of it, right? Like, just to be clear, the litigation is part of it. You can justify the litigation if they're going after your kids. Just make that argument. I wish Hutch would make arguments that actually, like, involve some degree of justified cruelty, right? Some degree of retaliatory cruelty. I hate this, like, oh God, I hate this soyness. I wish you would just make the correct argument here. Just say, I think that it is fully justified. I think it's fully justified to use the legal system to go after these motherfuckers because they're evil and they deserve to be taken down. Yes, that's all you need, okay? That's all you need. You don't need Yeah, you don't need to like walk on eggshells like this. This is like, I don't know, like this feels a little cucked.
It's either in lies or distortions, things like that, right?
They didn't
like you wouldn't say like a CPS report by itself.
Oh, much. You have it within you.
It's one
Make the
by
argument.
either lies, distortions, or exaggerations, right?
They had a vendetta against Ethan, and that's all.
It's motivated by bad stuff, either lies or bad motive, some kind of.
Oh
so it's
my
not
God.
just a mere calling
Whatever.
of CPS. It's calling CPS on a basis that is.
I hate all
improper,
these
such
guys.
as trying to hurt someone, not actually being concerned about
These
what's
guys
going
suck
on,
donkey balls.
including lies in whatever you're telling CPS, or
Yes.
exaggerations, or
They-
things that can't be reasonably obtained. Yeah, okay.
They crafted a narrative about him and Hila that they were these ultra-Zionist genocide supporters. It was a full-on mass psychosis event for that community with a collective audience of hundreds of thousands or millions of people. And in that collective audience pool, they crafted a narrative about Ethan and Hila. Number one, that was just a total fucking lie. But number two, that narrative that they delusionally all convinced themselves was true, at least maybe some of them did. But there was also an element of like bad faith to this as well. And so like I think they wanted to believe that about him. So it's possible maybe the person who made the report, like got themselves to believe this lie about Ethan. But the whole point is like it was fostered by those creators. They had active role in making a mockery of the whole situation.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? The creators like fostered this in their own communities. They helped.
Like intended for them to call CPS.
They helped promulgate these lies about Ethan and Hila. And in doing so,
yes.
Wait, did you say what lies?
I said okay, lies.
Okay,
so
yeah.
I understand. So how they're fomenting it or how they're fostering it isn't with a specific.
I think that you know what, this is better. Okay, good. This is what I was expecting. Okay, okay. Hutch, do not fuck this up. Okay?
For a kind of action, but doing stuff with its. Okay,
I'm not saying that, but in the case of, I would have to go back because it's been a minute since this drama kicked off. This was like a year ago or a year and a half ago when the CPS stuff happened. I don't even remember. But with Denims specifically, she was watching like a Bad Empanada video where he was doing these, and you would agree that Bad Empanada is a malicious actor, right? Like just one of the worst malicious actors in the entire space, right?
I mean, that's my understanding of his reputation. I have seen him do things that I would consider to be malicious, and so my answer is yes.
Like he will lie. Like he will lie. He will call people pedophiles. He will lie. Like his whole thing is he thinks that it's justified.
I don't consume his content. I understand that's his reputation. I've seen instances, for example.
It's not just his reputation. He has a storied history of like maliciously lying about people that he identifies as enemies. I'm
just telling you my what I have access to. What I have access to is I know he has a reputation for malicious lies. I know he has a reputation for doxing. And
yeah.
His opinion of Bad Empanada isn't as bad as you guys were putting it out to be. You guys were treating it as if it was the end of the world. Unless, because he said yes. He said basically yes. He said, yeah, this is what I've heard of his reputation. This is what I've seen him do. So yes, he did answer like yes, right? So he does acknowledge that Bad Empanada is this horrible person. No? I don't know why you guys are saying he's a weasel. I don't understand what you guys are talking about.
Or saying stuff, and I know that they have their own justifications for it, publicly available stuff, but I kind of have a different view on that issue, and I think that there are self-standing harms and stuff that he engages in. For example, regardless of whether or not it's technically publicly accessible, I think that certain kind of revelations of information.
Dude, the problem is that when something big like this happens, everyone exaggerates like the actual happenings. This is why I have to watch everything myself. Why won't he just say yes? He said yes anyway. If you back up the answer yes with the reasoning before or after, it doesn't change the fact that he said yes.
Even publicly available information can sometimes, I think, be considered norm violating. And,
what are you talking about?
And I've seen him make certain connections that I find to be malicious. I can't recall them though, as I sit here, and I'm not going to claim to know more than I do.
Let's put it this way: Hassan had a no Bad Empanada video policy at one point because that's
what I mean.
He had even acknowledged that Bad Empanada was completely deranged and unhinged. And it wasn't until Bad Empanada started doing like anti-Ethan content and like, I guess, pro-Palestine content that Hassan just consciously decided to forego that or to get rid of that rule. And then he started platforming Bad Empanada repeatedly over and over again, knowingly. No.
The reason people say that is because he didn't say yes. He said that's his reputation. No, he said that's his reputation. So I saw bad things, and so then I said yes. Do we watch the same?
That he probably
to make certain connections.
Okay, listen. Okay, if you're wrong, I'm banning you. Okay, if you're wrong, I'm timing you out.
To be malicious.
I would agree that Bad Empanada is a malicious actor, right? Like just one of the worst malicious actors in the entire space, right?
I mean, that's my understanding of his reputation.
That's my understanding of his reputation. Okay, which is true, right? He has a reputation for that.
Have seen him do things that I would consider to be malicious, and so.
I have seen him do things that I would consider him to be malicious. So this is from his perspective. He believes that Bad Empanada is doing malicious things, okay? He is literally saying from his own perspective that Epinard is doing malicious
My
things?
answer is yes.
His answer is yes. You guys, okay, all right, who is it? This is, I can't believe it. I can't believe I just let you guys just gaslight me. All right, well,
Like he will
okay,
lie.
come back later.
But I feel like we
Right? If you say, I don't give a shit that his motivation is to silence his critics, as long as there's
I hate, dude. Okay, listen. There's a reason why I'm the content creator and you're not the content creator. Okay, you're just a listener. You're just a watcher. Okay, I pay the
a
attention.
valid claim,
right?
I don't have a problem with it, then we don't need to get into the weeds at all.
no, but
right?
okay,
Because
no, but
you're
this is what I'm telling you is that like we can't evaluate this without getting into specifics about like what is being said about him in this hypothetical. So like if he's using the legal system to silence critics because
No, you're not.
they didn't like his opinions about things, then yeah, I would say that that's an immoral use of the system. That would.
I mean, what does it mean if everyone got the opposite interpretation of yours? To everyone's interpretation, Steven is a pedophile, murderer, rapist, okay? From my interpretation, from what I've seen of the facts, I see that Steven is like 99% innocent, okay? So guess what? Yeah, I'm used to not agreeing with the mass majority hype wagon people. Yes,
that would
of
be
course.
that would be
That's all I'm
overreach.
saying,
That would be
right?
too far. But if they're
Like, what the fuck are you going yeah.
using,
Building
but if
little by
they're
little.
but if they're saying if they're spreading lies about him about like abusing his children, for example, then that's a different conversation entirely, right?
We're just saying all else equal. And I would add like a
Hello,
kind of,
do you even know who you're talking to?
there could be certain extenuating circumstances where
Am I
even
Ludwig?
a
Hello?
desire to with the only desire is to silence one's critics. If there really is some overriding concern in terms of like the world's about to blow up, and if you don't bring the lawsuit, even though it's motivated by this thing, like I can think of situations in which I would grant it. But in general, this is why I'm using a stylized example, by which I mean like a simplified one that's not, you know, we can't read minds in the real world, right? We don't know for certain all the time what people's intentions are. We have to rely on circumstantial evidence. The only reason I'm giving you a stylized hypothetical is for you to grant me the easy case, so we have a base to work with. Because if you don't grant me that, and if you say I don't really give a fuck, if your only motivation, if your pure motivation, all else equal, is to silence your critics, then then the conversation on ethics just ends there, right? Because then like all we have to talk about are like I guess the lies and the legal validity of the case, but the ethical stuff kind of falls by the wayside if you just don't grant me that example.
No, if Ethan was trying to use the system to generally just silence his critics, then that would be bad.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And you would also agree that all else equal, you know, you can think of situations in which this is not the case. Lying about your intention regarding a lawsuit, that independent of whether the filing the lawsuit itself is bad, in general, lying about why you're filing a lawsuit is itself bad, right?
I mean, lying in a vacuum is bad. There's a content element to this where like Ethan Klein is this public persona. And I think if you asked his audience, like his dedicated fans that like watch all of his shows, they will tell you that Ethan is like a very kind of like petty person and doesn't really make any effort to hide it. So there's him like, you know, maliciously lying, actually like trying to do actual subterfuge or deception. And then there's like him like being coy, right? Like you understand that there's a difference in those kinds of like versions of dishonesty,
No
right?
doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. What you're suggesting is a kind of like open facetiousness or
Yes.
kind of like coy wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yeah.
Where, you know, literally it might be a lie, but everyone kind of understands what's going on. And so
Yes.
we don't really interpret it as a lie because it's kind of like a farce,
Yeah.
right? So I can totally acknowledge that distinction for sure. No, that's not what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
What I'm merely suggesting is all else equal, if someone, you wouldn't be like, it's good for Ethan to lie about his motivations. You'd be like, it's bad to lie about it, right?
Yeah, like,
right.
just like
Now-
in a
now there could
very
be some-
broad sense, but
Yeah, there could be some extenuating circumstance where if he doesn't lie about his motivation, the world will blow up, or you know, they'll take away his kids or something like that, and there could be some more. But in general, like we even think this of our politicians. We don't like
Yes.
it when our politicians lie. In general, we don't think that's good, and we think that there's a good norm in making sure that our public communicators are being frank and being upfront. And it's distasteful to us. We don't like it. All right, so that's
I mean, you're allowed to lie if you have you are allowed to lie to your audience if you think that there's enough justification for doing so. Like for example, let's just say someone's nudes got leaked, and the audience is asking you to confirm that it was actually this person. Now you know secretly that it was actually this person, but you want to hide their identity, right? Because you obviously don't want people to know that it's actually their nudes, right? Yeah, I think that's a justified lie. That's a justified lie. That's a perfect example of a justified lie. I know this because it actually happened with Tomfoolery Show and Mantis. Yeah. Now, with that being said, okay, because that example has actually happened before, okay, is that, you know, when it comes to a lawsuit, I don't really think of it as... I think it's bad, but I don't think it's as big of a deal as Pisco is making it out to be. That's my opinion. I think it's bad that it is a fabrication of sorts to make him look as if he is standing on higher ground than he actually is. But at the same time, I don't have a massive issue with it. It's not something I think about all that much, right? I think that, yeah, he probably did it out of spite, and he probably needed a reason to do so, right? And he probably needed like some kind of, public reasoning to do so. But yeah, at the same time, it's like, whatever. That's my opinion on it. But
This is just establishing, because what will happen, Hutch, and it's not really specific to you, is people will say things like, "Who the fuck cares if he lied? I guess everyone just kind of assumed that he lied." Whatever. It matters to people. Like, these kinds of lies matter, and it matters when they do it, right? It matters when Bedam Panada lies. It matters when Hassan lies. It matters when Denims lies. Fair?
Yes, but I feel like we can't just skip over what I just said a moment ago, which is essentially just like, not all lies are created equal. Like, we should not evaluate all lies as the same, just like it's just lie equal bad.
I also agree with that. I agree with Hutch here, because in my opinion, yeah, not all lies are created evil. Evil, fuck me, dude. Equal. Yeah, not all lies are created equal. And I think that when it comes to lies concerning your kids, concerning your children, the fact that Pisco didn't look into these lies and these like various other things that Hassan's crew has done and Denims has done, but meanwhile he's willing to condemn Ethan Klein, in my opinion, that is bad faith on his part. Yeah, I do think that's bad faith on his part, because you are basically making the argument like, oh, hey, I know for sure that this is something I really need to go after Ethan Klein for. But however, all the horrible things that Hassan's orders have done, never heard of that, right? So yeah, of course, of course, there's a difference in the way that Pisco treats information, right? I don't disagree with Pisco. I really don't disagree with Pisco here. However, I think that Pisco, the fact that he focuses so much on Ethan Klein's part of it, but instead of Hassan's part of it, I think that ultimately is indicative bad faith. Okay, but anyway,
no doubt.
It's like, in this context and many other.
Just so you know, okay, I know everything. Okay, I know about the drama. Okay, I know what went down. All right, it's just what I see.
Administration, when they lie about like the fact that they, the thing that comes to mind right now is they lied about whether Costa Rica would accept Kilmar Bigger Garcia as a third country removal. And even though they said, yes, we would love to accept him, you don't have to send him to fucking Liberia or Africa. Like, there's no reason to do that. You can just send him here. And when Trump lies about that, I'm like, yes, this is a worse lie than a potential lie about a copyright lawsuit. Okay. All I'm just saying, though, is not that there aren't lies, that one lie can be better or worse. If you lie about whether, your girlfriend looks fat in a dress, if you lie about
sure.
I'm not saying that all lies are created equal. What I'm just mainly saying is, in general, we would be against Ethan in the sense of we would.
To be fucking honest, I think it's a pretty bad lie if you lie about like whether or not your girlfriend looks fat in a dress, okay? If you don't say no, if you're not truthful, let's just say she does look fat and you said no because you don't want her to go after you, I think that's a disservice to your girlfriend. I really do think so. I think that you owe her the honesty, and there are nice ways of being honest with that, in my opinion.
Lying about it.
I don't expect anybody to have any kind of relationship skills around here. So you know what? Whatever. It's fine. Okay. That's why allegations come out. And that's why I covered them. Is because there's always a constant stream of allegations for me to look at because they lack the relationship skills.
Okay, you would say it's bad, right? Like misleading his audience about the reason behind a lawsuit.
Good luck with that one. Yeah, sure. Oh no. Hey, I love you, and I love you, but I'm gonna tell you right now, that dress is not really for you. It's like, honey, is it because I look a little fat here? Yeah, it's probably not the best. You should try on this other one. Hello? It's that easy. Oh my god. Yeah, that's how you should communicate, dumbass.
But what's the value? Like, yes, but like, what's the value of this hypothetical when we know the particulars? Why don't we just get to the particulars? You're trying to establish this framework. You're trying to take me on.
Don't say that to your future GF. Shut up. Okay, you people have the virgin mindset. Okay, I am a virgin. Okay, but I don't have the virgin mindset. Okay, you guys. Some people fuck all day, but they have the virgin mindset, okay? I know people who have the virgin mindset, okay?
This journey.
That's the virgin mindset.
I don't want it to be the case that I get you to agree that there's a lie, and then you'd be like, but I don't care.
Bro, if I was trying on something and you are not honest with my ass when it comes to the clothing that I wear, I am so gonna be pissed at you. I'm gonna be so fucking pissed at you. I am. I'm gonna be angry with you, okay? I am. Okay, if I'm fat, you better say I look fat in a nice way. Yeah, you shouldn't be mean, but you better say it, okay? Because I expect the truth from you, especially from somebody who is your partner, okay? That's it.
But hang on. I just said a moment ago, I don't think that, like, I think.
Oh, honey, I thought that dress isn't flattering on you. I really like the blue dress better. Exactly, Stumpling, okay? By the way, okay? Late 40s, mother of 2 kids, all right? Still in a happy, loving relationship, all right? You guys suck.
When Ethan talks, I think everybody knows what motivated Ethan in the first place. And I think it is both of these things, like the personal grievance that he had with these people for their contribution to his family's very real like suffering and harassment. And I think he also cares about malicious React content, as evidenced by his previous history of addressing these things.
I know your position is that there is no evidence he lied, or the evidence you don't believe that he necessarily lied, or that he did lie at all. I understand that that's your position, that he didn't in fact lie. What I'm trying to suggest to you is, if he did, you can understand why someone would condemn it.
But what do you think he lied about, though? Why don't we get to that? What do you think he lied about?
Okay, let's get right to it. I think he lied that his motivation for the lawsuit was to protect the React community. That's number one. That's the first lie. So I've identified a lie, and you can confront me and say he never actually said that. I think that would be an absurd thing to say. Number two.
Sorry, you guys made me miss it.
Okay, let's get right to it.
Okay.
I think he lied that his motivation for the lawsuit was to protect the React community. That's number one. That's the first lie. So I've identified a lie, and you can confront me and say he never actually said that. I think that would be an absurd thing to say. Number two lie. He lied when he said that Kaceytron's apology was sincere. I think that those, at a bare minimum, are two significant lies that we should, if true, and I think you should grant me it, if it's true he lied about those two things, or either of those two things, you would condemn it. Fair?
I think not necessarily, no, because I think I think I agree with you.
I don't like. Oh God, I would not make the. Like, okay, you guys, I hope you guys understand, okay, from all of our disagreements, that I am on Hutch's side, right? You guys understand that I'm on Hutch's side? Like, we're not confused about that part. We're not confused about that part, that I'm not, like, arguing. The reason why I'm pissed at Hutch is because I feel as though he could easily make better arguments. He could easily make better arguments, but he's not, because he is a little bit cowardly. Like, he is a little bit cowardly, which is why, like, the better position to have here, hold on.
To protect the React community. That's number one. That's the first lie. So I've identified a lie, and you can confront me and say he never actually said that. I think that would be an absurd thing to say. Number two lie. He lied when he said that Kaceytron's apology was sincere. I think that those, at a bare minimum, are two significant lies that we should, if true, and I think you should grant me it, if it's true he lied about those two things, or either of those two things, you would condemn it. Fair?
I think not necessarily, no, because I think I think I agree with you that he put a little peppered, a little mustard on the idea that Kaceytron was being sincere. I think he was I think it was a kind of gloating for him. I think it was a kind of feigned being like magnanimous.
Oh, you don't think he was being sincere when he told his audience not to attack Kaceytron, and that this was sincere?
No, I think he was being sincere there. I think he was trying to
presumably then
I think he was trying to mitigate, like, yeah, or maybe he was, maybe honestly, maybe he was feeling magnanimous in the moment.
Yeah, but that's what I don't like about Hutch. I think he's too soft.
I watched the opening of that stream,
and people keep saying, "Oh my God, it's a good thing he's soft. It's a good thing he's friendly." No, motherfucker. Okay, this guy would get raped by Nazis if it means not escalating the situation.
And the vibes were pretty clear. Like
he's ready to bend over for the SS.
In the stream,
okay?
I mean, that was a fucking victory lap. Like he was gloating. Like he was gloating throughout the whole stream. And then I think he acted.
But do you think that in the moments when he said, Kaceytron's being sincere, don't attack Kaceytron, we understand her plight, we understand what's going on, you think that was part of the kind of like wink wink gloating, or you think that he was being sincere when he was trying to tell his audience not to go after her? And if he wasn't being sincere, you got another problem there, right? Because then he's wink winking and saying to his audience, you should continue to do this.
No. I think he was being sincere. Like you can both things can be true. Both things, like he can be gloating, and at the same time he can, like have a better angel in himself in the moment to dissuade like future harassment.
But I recognize that there's a difference in terms of whether something is a lie. If there's a kind of general understanding that this is some kind of farce or display where you're not expected to believe it. But you don't think that he was trying to do that with respect to his statements about, guys, Kaceytron, I believe this is a very sincere apology, very nice apology. Don't go after her. You think when he did that,
I think that
wasn't that, right? That wasn't him being insincere. He was being sincere, wasn't he?
No, I think that was him trying to be responsible in terms of like moderating his community.
So was he being sincere?
Maybe, probably. I don't know. I think like, listen, I think
that's a justified lie, okay? I don't actually have an issue with that. I literally do not have, okay, well, not that much of an issue. I don't have that much of an issue. When he's telling his community to, like, scale it back down, I remember people saying, well, you should go for blood, right? Like, Ethan Klein shouldn't be, like, being, like, soft on her. No, she's willing to cooperate. She is, like, Ethan Klein played tit for tat, and she caved. Ethan Klein was willing to play tit for tat, and she caved. What more could you ask for? Like, isn't this the whole entire point of tit for tat, is to expect a concession from the other side? Yeah, if the other side starts conceding, why shouldn't you? Right? Because you want to return back to the norm. You don't want to become the very thing that you hate, right? Like, of course. Right? Life ruination? Are you a life ruiner? Yeah, of course. Like if they begin to back down and realize the gravity of the situation, why wouldn't you show mercy, right? Of course you would. This is a silly question.
I think I don't know Ethan that well, to be honest with you. I don't really know, like I can't speak to his character, but I have seen him in the past demonstrate sympathy.
You gain way more from displaying to other people that you're fighting with that you can actually show mercy. Otherwise, people like Denims, other people, they would never ever concede to you, because if they do concede to you in the future, they will know that you will not show mercy even if you concede. No fucking shot. You're expecting Ethan Klein to go even further than that, okay? You don't know how the rules of engagement even works, okay? Because you have to be willing to show that surrendering does not mean summary execution by firing squad, okay?
For people, even people that he didn't like. So for all I know, in that moment.
Otherwise, they will fight to the bitter end, and both sides will lose a lot more in the end, yes.
Like, he can, but like I said, both of the things can be happening at the same time. So he can feel a sense of satisfaction that he got, like justice was served. Like there were consequences for bad behavior that negatively impacted him, his wife, his family. And at the same time, he can also have a part of him that wanted to be like responsible with his moderating of his community in that moment to prevent from the war or whatever from blowing up even.
Like bombing shipwreck survivors? No, that's not even close to the same. I'm talking about you're in an active engagement. The enemy forces are ready to, okay, let's just say you're besieging a settlement, okay? You're besieging a settlement and they have walled fences, okay? But they're barely holding because the siege has been going on for weeks at this point, okay? They're holding back extremely hard, okay? But they're failing. The cost is great on both sides, okay? Both sides have contributed considerable resources, but you're definitely going to win in the end because you have more money, you have more troops, you have more technology, okay? So now let's just say that one of them, like some of them want to surrender, okay? Some of them want to surrender because they're like, we can't go on fighting like this anymore. So a group of them who departed from inside the settlement wants to surrender. Well, if you execute them all, if you execute the people who want to surrender, then why should the rest of the people in this settlement give up? Of course, motherfucker. Of course they're going to keep fighting to the death and they're going to cost more of your troops. Of course. Are you dumb? Are you stupid? Yeah, of course. This is how wars work, motherfucker. Yeah, that's how it works. Which is why if you just simply interrogate, which is what is happening here, right? If you just simply interrogate and imprison them and show them mercy and send them back to their families in the end after the war is over, then you're showing the people inside the settlement that they can surrender and they could just simply like still be spared their lives, right?
Further, he can be motivated by
otherwise, there's no point to not surrendering.
Things at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm not, when you say he can be motivated by things, it's very important, right?
Why are people just so stupid when it comes to rules of engagement? Nobody knows how anything works anymore. Like, this is literally common sense shit. I'm not even talking about like Sun Tzu type shit, right? That Radiant's talking about, the art of war type shit. I'm not even talking about that. Like, this is like common sense. You guys are so fucking stupid. Okay.
And I'm not trying to just be like super anal about how we use the words, but it really matters. Like, when we say can, like, I will always grant that it can be the case. If what you mean by can is it doesn't entail a logical contradiction, right? So if you ask me, isn't it possible that Ethan could have two motives? I'm going to say, yes, it is possible, by which I mean it is not entailing a logical contradiction. But so you just got to be very, very careful when you say that, because I'm going to, every time you say that, going to say, if by possible, do you mean logically possible? If by can, do you mean it
is logically possible? I'll say it that way. It is logically possible to be, to gloat and show sympathy for your, conquered foe at the same time.
What I'm telling you is it's logically possible for you to be able to jump to the moon right now.
No,
all we mean by logical possible.
What? No, it's not. What are you talking about? How is that logically possible?
Because the definition of logical possibility, the modality of possibility we're talking about there, is specifically about whether or not there's a contradiction entailed by it. So I would be, when I say something like,
I feel like I would be contradicting the laws of physics by
right. So that's like a different, like, if you take as given the laws of physics, then you can establish a contradiction.
I do.
That the laws of physics. Okay,
I do.
But then you're introducing some these kind of rules of physics and these external rules that aren't necessitated by the situation itself. And so that's why it matters to talk about this, because what people will hear when you say, isn't it possible that Ethan Klein has two motives? And I answer yes to that is, oh, well, he just gave the game away because he's saying that it's possible to have two motives.
No, I'm giving you my best answer. But I'm in the absence of certainty, because I have not personally reached out to Ethan and asked him like what motivated you in that moment. So I don't know. But like,
have you reached out to Trump and asked him the motivations about his malicious acts? And by the way,
no.
when I do this comparison, I'm not saying Ethan is the same as Trump, guys.
Are you suggesting that I should have?
I want to inoculate myself against that. When I made the comparison to Trump, I wasn't saying Ethan is like Trump. It's a comparison.
But it's like you're demanding that I have certainty, and I don't. I'm giving you my vibe, my best guess from my observation.
I'm not asking you to say 100%.
Yeah, but you are, because I say it's possible, and you're like, well, then like you don't have you have an issue with me saying it's possible.
No, because I can't prove to you right now that you're not a brain in a vat, that Ethan doesn't actually exist, that you're just a figment of my imagination. Like, there's so much that I cannot prove 100%, right? Like, I can't prove that 100% that we live on a sphere. By 100%, we mean to an
Okay, never mind. I'm not following anymore. What the fuck is going on?
epistemic certainty. So understand what I'm saying here is we're stepping way back to talk about like possibility in the abstract. And
no,
the only
you
reason I'm
are.
doing this,
You're because you're debate broing me right now.
No,
like
it's not. It's really not an attempt to debate, bro. Because what will happen is you'll ask, isn't it possible that Ethan has two motivations? And if I say no, I sound ridiculous because of course people can have mixed motives, right? Of
but
course,
you don't think that.
Possible.
Why don't we skip to that?
Okay, I think Pisco is being a little bit silly here, right? I think Pisco is being a little silly here. What? The greater nuance is important, right? Like to be very clear, the greater nuance is important. It's not like it's not important, right? Like talking about the greater nuance and talking about like overall what should we do, or overall like people are more complicated, right? Is more important. Like people aren't just like autonomous machines who are only operating based off of one command, right? Yeah, like I believe that people are complicated and they have different motivations for different actions. You can have different motivations, and it's okay to discuss that, and to not discuss that would be kind of bad faith, right?
You don't think that. You don't think that. What do you think? What do you think?
Right. So I just, this is really important. I want to clarify, when I say he doesn't have mixed motive, I'm not saying it's impossible for a person to have mixed motive. I'm saying the evidence that we have is, I think, strong that this motivation, the particular motivation that I'm citing, isn't what's actually motivating. But before we get into that, because I do want to get into that, I just want to like get an agreement. If he did lie about Kaceytron's apology and whether it was sincere, are you suggesting that you would say that that was good to do?
If the purpose of the lie was to prevent harassment, for example, would you say that that would be bad?
I think that that if you felt that an apology on anti-Semitism, on whether or not it was right to invoke Asmongold's mother, whether or not you're apologizing to your very employees, that you are eliciting a known insincere apology, why, to protect an insincere person, would you make that? If you were a principled person, I would say, yeah, I don't want you to lie to your audience about whether the apology is sincere based on your feeling that you have to like protect someone who's being insincere. Does that make sense?
But if you're not indulging my hypothetical. Really. Would it be wrong to lie if you're, as a creator, if your intention is to dissuade your audience from like brigading Kaceytron streams and replies?
At some level of danger to Kaceytron's health and security.
And okay, good. Okay, Hutch is regaining the upper hand. In my opinion, I think it's really important to make the moral arguments, because I was really frustrated with Hutch's initial performance, just mainly because like if you can't jump into the moral argumentation of this entire thing, then in my opinion you're setting yourself up for failure. Okay, because that's the entire reason why we argue these things. It's because we think that something is justified morally or immorally, right? Yeah. It's like, where do your morals lie, right? Like, do you think it's morally justified for Ethan Klein to go after someone in terms of vengeance by getting them on charges of another thing? Isn't that like police case in general? You can definitely justify this. It's not like you can't justify this, right? You can definitely justify this. It just takes, you just need to put your head to it, right? You just need to actually put your mind to it, right? You can definitely justify like shit like this, right?
Security, then yes, I think that it's okay to lie. If otherwise she would get killed or assaulted or attacked or some shit like that.
So now Hutch is going, well, isn't it justified to lie? Yeah, that's the entire argument that we wanted you to make this entire time. Is it or is it not justified to do crazy shit against your enemies, or crazy shit in specific circumstances where nuance is required? Yeah, that is the question. Yeah.
And it's like,
or harassed and brigaded.
No, not that. I do not think at the scale we're talking about here, which is public criticism. All right. I also love this kind of like deflation of the word harassment. That means anytime you get like a bunch of comments, negative comments and shit, and negative attention, by that logic, like I'm harassed constantly all the time by everybody.
I'm sure you are.
harassment, like when I understand harassment to be, and it's not just like it is a specific wrongful act that puts you in like fear for your privacy or a fear of like that you're about to be in physical harm or something like that, or someone's going to stalk you, shit like that. Not mere criticism because you did a bad thing. Like it's not harassment that we say Trump is a piece of shit or Hexit needs to go to jail, or we say that like I understand these are public figures, but same thing.
They're not, not the same thing at all, bro.
On Hassan Piker, right? Like when Hassan Piker is lying about Israel or Gaza or whatever that you think he's lying about, you wouldn't be like, okay, criticizing that is harassment, right? If he's doing misconduct, if he's being insincere and you criticize it, that's not harassment, fair?
Just criticism is not harassment, but if it's organized brigading, if it's organized brigading, if you're
by which you mean what? Like that?
What do you mean you don't know the term? You know what brigading means? Come on, like if
brigading means like sending your people over to their servers or the
brigading doesn't even necessarily need to be like orchestrated by the creator. It could be something that just arises.
I don't think that. Yes, to answer your question, no. I don't think that the fear of brigading is enough to justify lying to your audience.
I don't know. I think that's
about an insincere apology.
But you're motivated. But you're motivated by a desire to like prevent harm or limit harm. How could that be immoral? Because you're lying.
I think that his motivation is to try to.
Well, I mean, like according to Pisco, I'm guessing like maybe the fucking implicit, like there's an implicit, like lying is inherently bad. I think that's the only argument you can make, right? Is that you think that lying is inherently bad, which is why you don't want to make the argument that, hey, you know, maybe some lies can be justified. I mean, I guess the correct hypothetical to ask Pisco is, do you think that all lying is bad, or do you think lying is okay in some circumstances? Don't you think that maybe lying in some circumstances can be okay? Because Pisco is hinging a lot on the fact that, like, liars are implicitly bad, which I don't think anybody believes in that. I don't think anybody truly believes in that unless they're like an autist, like some kind of weird by the books autist who is like painfully naive, right?
Claim it's sincere for purposes of his further, you know, to justify his position in the lawsuit and to justify the negative statements made about Hassan Piker. So I don't even buy. At this point, I don't have a good inference that he's really motivated to, you know, protect Kaceytron's well-being. And part of that is because of the way he talks about Kaceytron's financial situation, which I find reprehensible. But we can get into that in a second.
He can be petty.
But
he can be petty.
I just want to say that if it were the case that Kaceytron is being insincere in her apology, and Ethan Klein knows her to be insincere, you would say that it's okay for Ethan to lie about that.
I don't think it's necessarily bad.
But given the facts that we have here, if under current understandings of the fact, right, your own interpretation of the facts as you know it, if you found out and Ethan said to you, you know,
why is Pisco defending Kaceytron harder than Vadim that hopped onto J-Stoke's stream? Like J-Stoke literally has a harsher position on Kaceytron than Pisco. Like, what is going on here?
I was lying. I don't think it's sincere. What would you say to that?
This is so corny.
Don't care.
You don't care about the
no.
So this is why so I'm not going to spend a lot of time.
I don't care. I don't think it's necessarily bad. I think he was even if I indulged your version of it. Let's say he's just all it is just him doing a backhanded like victory lap. I don't care.
Okay, so that's why I lead with this stuff. If you don't care about whether or not he lied about her sincerity or insincerity on the apology, then I'm not going to spend a bunch of time, even if I could establish that she lied, which actually I will ask you about, that you would think, if you're not going to condemn it, right, I'm not going to spend a bunch of time wasting like, well, why you should, right? Like you're saying basically it's okay for him to lie about the sincerity of the apology, even if it's not true, if you tell the audience it is true.
If you think that I have some kind of moral obligation to condemn him for lying in that spot, in this hypothetical, you would have to convince me that the consequences that Kaceytron experienced were not commensurate with the way that she contributed to what happened with Ethan and Hila and all that. Like you would have to say, because earlier in the conversation you said that you didn't think it was necessarily immoral to bring litigation against someone but be motivated by some other kind of grievance. You said that wasn't necessarily immoral, right?
Yeah, so I think that there could be motivations that aren't necessarily that it doesn't necessarily make it immoral. That's correct. I was giving some stylized examples, but we'll get into the facts about the lawsuit. But I just want to resolve this issue of lying. No,
but then this conversation needs to be about like, do you think that Ethan bringing litigation was too far of a response to how Kaceytron and Frogan and Denims and that whole community contributed to the CPS call and the harassment that Ethan and Hila got?
Right. So, I mean, the case, you're basically asking me, do you think the lawsuits are justified? That's what you're asking me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I do want to get into that, but I just want to...
Could it be justified, you know? Like, is that an...
you know what Hutch should do? Hutch should try to force a yes or no question out of Pisco. I think Hutch should force yes or no out of Pisco right here, okay? Because, like, Pisco does this shit so much, this yes or no thing, I think it would be great to reverse that back onto Pisco, okay? Let him, give him a taste of his own medicine for once, okay?
By could, you mean could I see some possible world that doesn't entail a contradiction?
Like just no, dude, Pisco doesn't even hold himself to the same standard. God, he doesn't hold himself to the same standards he applies to others, dude. When it comes to yes or no questions, fuck me, dude.
Which it could be justified answers yes, but again, that's.
But do you think that? That's no. But do you think that?
No, I don't think it's. I think under the circumstances, given
Fuck. Okay, never mind. He gave an answer.
the nature of the lies and what's actually motivating it, I do not think that they're justified.
I mean, how do you feel about how do you feel about the collective communities that they had piling on about the CPS stuff? Like, how do you feel about that? And then the lack of moderation.
Right,
how do you feel about that?
Question. Like,
but that's a really important question. Like, how do you feel about that?
So, depending on the conduct, I of course condemn it. If what they're doing is advocating for or celebrating, for example, calling CPS on those facts, I condemn that. If they're, for example, let's say it's something weird like refusing to condemn the death of a political, the assassination or something, I would condemn that.
Let's just talk about what happened. Let's just talk about what happened. Like they made a mockery of it.
I can think of a bunch of situations where failure to moderate is something that I would condemn.
No, but I'm talking about this specific thing. I just want your thoughts on this specific thing. Like, do you not think do you not think that action that they did, that the way that they participated in the whole CPS thing?
What did they do?
I already laid it out for you. We talked about that before. They enabled it. They enabled it. They were wildly irresponsible at best, and they were maliciously egging it on at worst. And in the case of Denims, I think
they're culpable. You think that they're culpable for what happened?
I think they're all like jointly culpable. Yeah, they all have a part to play in that. Yeah, when you don't take any meaningful action to moderate your community, when you can see plain as day what's going on in your chat, when you're making jokes about it after the fact, like why are you joking about it after the fact? Like that.
Well, presumably if you're joking about it,
Hutch is talking about anti-fan culture, but unfortunately, Pisco is like the defender of the anti-fans, I guess. Listen, I don't know why he got pushed into this position, okay? Fuck me. Okay, but somehow Pisco got chosen as the chosen one for the anti-fans, okay? All right, okay, trust me. All right, like this is just how it works, I guess. I don't fucking know. Fuck me.
Presumably if you're joking about it after the fact, and only after the fact, how do we know there's a causal connection at all?
I think at some point, like even if you're as dense as Hutch, even if you're like a dumbass, like at some point, even when you're receiving harassment from Destiny's anti-fans, then I think at some point you begin to get it, because you either join them or you're against them, right? And Hutch has chose to be against them, and Pisco has chosen to join them. So therefore, of course, Pisco is going to be like he's going to be a little bit like, yeah, he's going to be defending them like this. Yes.
Between what occurred and the community. I can imagine a bunch of people laughing at shit that they had no. So I'll give you an example, right? There are some Democrats who celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk. Agreed? Yes or no?
Yes. Like randos on Twitter. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Are those people culpable for Charlie Kirk's death?
No, but that's not the same thing at all. Wait, hang on a second.
It's a comparison. No, it's an analogy.
No, but this would only be analogous if they were all in message boards where they were talking about potentially unaliving Charlie Kirk. That would be analogous.
So what you need to show, don't you, is a causal relationship between their conduct incriminatory act and the act itself, don't you?
The CPS call happened shortly after Denims did her stream.
This autism is way too wild for me. This autism is unacceptable to me, okay? The autism, this is not autism, sorry. I think that this is bad faith. I think that any reasonable person could easily conclude that, in fact, yeah, Denims is responsible for it, because the CPS call happened right after, timing-wise, right after the shit went down, right? Right after it went down. Yes, you can make that argument so easily, okay? The alignment of the sequence of events makes total sense, right? It's like investigating the scene of a crime, and you have the most obvious shit in front of you, and you're like, but what if it's a coincidence? No, motherfucker, okay? Chances are, yeah, the murderer probably did use that knife. Right? The murderer probably did use that knife, actually, yeah. Oh, you're talking about this knife that is bloody and was just found there at the scene of the crime? Yeah, it's almost as if that was the murder weapon. Oh, but like, the person's blood was on it, and the wounds seem consistent with stabbing wounds. Well, you don't know. What if it's a kitchen knife that is simply used for chopping up meat? And the blood just happened to splatter onto the knife, and they simply got shivved by something else. Maybe a hidden weapon inside of the murderer's pocket, like a pocket knife or some shit. No, motherfucker! The murder weapon is like right fucking there, mate. Okay, anyway, yeah.
Where she platformed a bad empanada video where he was making the case that CPS should be called. And she made no meaningful, she like maybe she made some, but like she did not go nearly far enough in terms of moderating her. If I was her, first of all, why is she watching that video? Why is she platforming Bad Empanada? Why is she watching a video with this guy who is tacitly encouraging his audience to call CPS? Do you agree that that's wildly irresponsible as a creator?
To watch a Bad Empanada video?
Yeah, to watch a bad, not in a vacuum, to watch a Bad Empanada video of him.
Dude, even I watch Bad Empanada videos. Dude, yeah, because there's a big difference between watching a video and platforming their opinion versus commentating on the video and going ham on that motherfucker. Yeah, of course there's a difference, right? Like, let's not pretend that there isn't a difference, right? I thought that was a really basic concept that basically everybody gets, right? Yeah, there is a difference when it comes to whether or not, like, for example, if I watched the Asmongold, we can all agree Asmongold is basically a crypto neo-Nazi at this point, right? Like, there is no disagreement on this, that he is basically like a full-on neo-Nazi adjacent at the very least. If we agree that that is true, if we agree that Asmongold is that, I think that if you platform him without any semblance of pushback and you just straight up do not try, in my opinion, yeah, you're basically platforming his ideas, right? And you're advocating for like crazy heinous shit to happen, be it by proximity, right? But that's the thing, isn't it? Is that it really depends on how you interact with the information.
Making the case for why the viewer should maybe call CPS.
Is it a good thing to do?
Is it irresponsible? Is what I said.
Should she do it? I think the answer is no. I don't think she should do it.
Why?
But that's not.
But why though?
But that doesn't. Hang on, because I
no.
think
But the why matters. The why matters.
Yes,
why?
I'm about to wait. I'm answering that. Did you hear me answering that? I said.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So, I don't think it's good because if you are, watching a video in which these kinds of, bad things are being expressed, all else equal, without any pushback, potentially that could, encourage a risk or something of something occurring.
Yes.
But hang on a second.
What thing?
But hang on 1 second. Do you have evidence that Denims knew what was in the video before she watched it? Yes or no?
I don't know off the top of my head, but she kept watching it. That's not the point. She kept watching it. She could have turned it off the second he brought that up and said, whoa, this is way too far. I don't co-sign this.
Please no. You don't have any evidence that she knew the contents of the video.
Why would you skip it? No, she continued to watch it, dude. She indulged the logic.
I just want to do it one step at a time. So you don't have any evidence, correct, that she knew what was in the video?
I think you're trying to worm out of the logical conclusion that you just jumped to. I think you're trying to worm out of the logical conclusion that you just jumped to, which is that if the reason why it's irresponsible for someone to do that in her position is because, as you said, the risk goes way up that somebody in her community might act on that.
But here's the thing.
So how is she not culpable?
So it's an attenuated risk. It's an attenuated risk that is not at all
That's okay.
sufficient for
GG
culpability.
go next.
Not even 1%, not even close to 1%, Hutch. The mere acting and watching of a video that encourages bad stuff, now you are culpable for things that might result from watching
culpable.
a video.
They're all partly culpable. All of them are. Yes.
That you would apply this standard to any other commentator who watches something.
Of course I do.
Bro.
No. I have a consistent. Ask my chat if I moderate. Ask my chat if I moderate. I take steps all the time. I tell my chat explicitly all the time. Don't brigade. I do all, like, there's certain red lines that I understand that me as a creator, as someone with a following, as someone who could potentially influence someone, I do think that I have a responsibility to use that influence.
Jesus Christ! Wait. Oh my God. Bro is flustered.
Culpable. It doesn't make you culpable.
It doesn't make you 100% culpable, but you are partly culpable. Yes. And at the very
here's
least,
a question. Here's a question for you, Hutch. If you're saying that Charlie Kirk has blood on his hands, this is before he's killed. Charlie Kirk is a fascist. Charlie Kirk is trying to overturn the democracy of our country. He's instituting these horrible things. And
you're doing the Republican thing now. That's what you're doing. You're doing the thing.
Why do you think I'm bringing up the Republican talking point? Why do you think I'm bringing that up, Hutch?
Because there's a difference. Their observations is not the same as this at all.
Hutch,
it's a bad faith. It's a bad faith situation.
So I'm not gonna be deterred from bringing up this example. The question stands. The question is as follows: if you, as a creator, are platforming a video, you're watching a video in which someone says Charlie Kirk has blood on his hands, he's allowing and encouraging criminal actions from the administration, and honestly, I think that he's a fascist, and there should be no moral consideration for Charlie Kirk whatsoever.
Hold on.
I'm going to finish the question, Hutch.
I have a video. I just want you to watch a video. I just want you to watch a video.
No. You can I'm asking something. I will definitely watch your video after I get an answer and we address it. Okay. I will definitely, don't worry about it, right? So if it's the case that you have someone who's watching a video of someone else saying Charlie Kirk has blood on his hands, he should have no moral consideration, and he kind of doesn't do anything, he just kind of watches it. Ends up Charlie Kirk gets assassinated. Someone comes up to you, Hutch, and said, you are culpable. You watched this insane video in which he says no moral consideration should be given to Charlie Kirk. You don't actually believe it, and you didn't do any pushback.
If somebody did that and 5 minutes afterwards somebody killed Charlie Kirk, yeah, I fully think that that person probably has a more direct connection to it. That's the bullet that I would bite. Yeah, I'm gonna bite that bullet. Yeah, of course. If some motherfucker was like implying in every way that Charlie Kirk is not deserving of moral consideration, and then 5 minutes later or 10 minutes later Charlie Kirk gets assassinated, I am gonna blame that person. I will actually blame that person. I will. I'm sorry. I just will. Like does he really think that this bullet cannot be bitten on? This is such an easy bullet to bite. Yeah, of course. Of course. The timing does matter. The timing unironically matters. Of course. Because if you argue that again, like, oh yeah, this person's not more justification, it'll be a shame if somebody assassinate him. Oh my God, please search your cabinets to see if you have your father's gun or something like that. Then yeah, like, guess what's gonna happen? 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, a little whoopsie daisy here and there, somebody slips, falls flat on the face, some neck gets bent. Yeah.
In that moment,
Did the person in the video?
Let me finish the question. Would that person who watched that video, without any pushback on the notion that Charlie Kirk deserves no moral consideration, he didn't push back there, he let that stand, would that person be culpable for the assassination of Charlie Kirk, yes or no?
Did the video that was
Answer the
watched?
question first.
I need to ask you about the video that this hypothetical video. In the hypothetical video that I watched, did the creator of that video suggest that someone should it explicitly suggests that someone should unalive Charlie Kirk?
No. He says he deserves no moral consideration. Whatever happens to him is justified.
That's too abstract. Then no, there's no culpability there.
So
This is not abstract though. In the case of Denims, it's not abstract.
Hang on a second. Don't you agree that there's a risk that someone could get the wrong impression? Isn't there?
That standard is way too.
Will somebody please rid me of this troublesome priest? Yes, we know what you're talking about. You're basically saying, well, they don't actually want it to happen. They don't actually want it to happen, but it happened because somebody misinterpreted or somebody is mentally ill. Yes, I know what the argument is. Will somebody please rid me of this troublesome priest? I did it, my king. I killed the priest for you. No, you don't understand. I meant that like as a joke because I was frustrated by his behavior, but that doesn't mean that I want the priest to be killed. Well, my king, when you said rid me of this troublesome priest, I have done so under your orders. Under your orders, my liege. No, it can't be. Yeah, of course. It is still the king's fault because he does not recognize that his words carry far more meaning and far different interpretation than the average commoners' words. Yeah, of course. That's how, yes. Yeah, as content creators, you have the responsibility to be responsible, motherfucker. Yeah.
Why?
Hang on a second.
You agree with me that there's a spectrum. You agree with me that there's a spectrum, right?
What I'm trying to prove is, what I'm trying to demonstrate to you is the mere fact that there's an increased risk does not imply that there is culpability. The volitional acts of others cut off the causal chain such that we imply culpability, even if it's the case that you have dangerous rhetoric, such that it's possible there's a risk. You agree, don't you, by the way, that Destiny, I think, has been based on a lot of his assessments of the double standard and hypocrisy of MAGA. Would you deny that there is a risk that him saying and refusing to condemn at times, sometimes he does condemn it, but at times refusing to condemn carries risk of the assassination? Does it carry risk?
This is so retarded. No, it doesn't. Also, Pisco doesn't even believe in this either. Like he wouldn't also, or is he making a hypothetical?
You kind of lost me there.
Yes, of course. So when Destiny refuses to condemn the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I am telling you that he's inconsistent on it. Sometimes he condemns it, but there are moments.
No, he's been consistent on it. No, he's been consistent on it. He has said explicitly that he does condemn it in every way, shape, and form, except in front of conservatives who are demanding that you condemn it without advocating for Trump to lower the temperature of the country. He's saying that you should not try to virtue signal to conservatives when they don't deserve the virtue signal. But in private, among your own people, of course you should condemn it. It's a very solid position. It's consistent within itself. It does not contradict itself. There is no P equals not P here, right? There's no Q equals P equals not Q here, right? Like there's no hypocrisy.
All the time about how I think his rhetoric around that stuff is way too irresponsible.
All of a sudden, there's a
this is inconsistent.
All of a sudden, there's a Republican who's killed, and they even cite, Destiny because, no moral consideration, there needs to be equality, whatever. That would be, you would not say Destiny's culpable there, would you?
You are fucking debate perverting
just
me
answer
right
it,
now.
dude.
We're so far
Because
in the
you
weeds about this.
understand-
I just
you
want you to watch a
understand.
video. I just want you to watch a video. We don't need to do the hypotheticals, please.
No, we actually do, because this shows that there's a principle that we're not going to impose.
But you're not
culpability
proposing
for-
something that is analogous, dude. These are not
Hang on.
analogous. It's
You
not
need-
like,
you need to
oh,
explain-
if
you need
this,
to
then
explain
that.
You need to explain the disanalogy then, because what I provide.
This analogy is the timing and the specificity. The timing, the specificity, and using your fucking head, okay? I guess. Like, that would be my answer. My answer would be like, bro, motherfucker, all right? I think that if you're saying vaguely, oh yeah, I wish I could ship all the Republicans onto an island and fly them away, and then some Republican dies in like the next 10 days, of course we shouldn't trace it back to that, right? Of course we shouldn't trace it back to that. If some big figure said, oh yeah, I wish we could put all the Republicans on a single boat and then fly them off into the ocean, and then 10 days later, someone blames that person for instigating against like the Republican that actually got killed or something, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course that isn't like, of course that's ridiculous, right? Of course that's ridiculous, right? But what exactly are we talking about here? We're talking about something very specific. We're talking about something that cannot be misconstrued. We're talking about the timing that is very short, not 10 days, within the day, within the hour, within 30 minutes, in fact, and they celebrate it. They celebrate it in the lefty community. They celebrated that. In my opinion, this is an open and shut case. This is an open and shut case. If I was an investigator, I would be like, yes, we have all the evidence we require. We have all the evidence we require for stochastic terrorism. Okay? We have all the evidence we require.
You said,
Then
right?
let me ask you a question. You asked me like 5 questions, bro. Let me ask you a question. Would you, if you were watching a video, and then the creator of the video, in the video that you're watching, suggested that someone should unalive Tim Pool, would you continue to watch the video?
I would condemn that. I'm just telling. That's why, and I would say,
Would you continue to watch the video?
Yeah, I might continue to watch the video. I watched unhinged.
However, I mean, basically, you're making an argument like you should. Oh my god, look at his face. Holy cow, is he okay? Oh my god, he actually looks really scary. He's actually kind of scaring me with this face.
People say unhinged things all the time. Now, I would probably.
You would turn that shit off. Come on, bro. You would turn it off. There's TOS considerations.
Are you shitting me?
You don't think you would turn that off?
If I saw a video in which someone is making a threat of violence, you think I would automatically turn the video off?
If somebody made a specific call to action, you would be banned in like a second if you didn't turn it off, right?
Wait, the mere listening to it?
Oh my god, he looks more and more like Walmart Chud Logic every day. I swear to God. I feel like Pisco is what it would look like if I tried to draw Chud Logic from memory. It feels a little browner.
Yes, you can't.
I've never heard of that TOS.
Okay. You've never heard you've never heard of
maybe
TOS for a call to action to like a specific call to action to hurt someone or harm someone?
If an individual is endorsing it, but just merely watching the video?
Yes, every platform that you're on, basically. If you're watching a video that says someone should really go on a live Tim Pool and you didn't stop watching it,
I condemn that. Wait, hang on.
No, you would be banned if you didn't turn that off, right?
Wait, I'm not convinced of that. If I've watched,
hang on,
maybe
give me 1
they
second.
haven't enforced.
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
You got me shouting, so I need some fucking water.
Oh, no worries.
If you were watching a video where somebody said, you know what, I really fucking, Tim Pool is just the worst, and, you know, somebody definitely needs to go and unalive him, right? You would continue to watch that?
Yeah, if I was analyzing it and saying, this is a true threat, this is an example of a true threat. I'll give you another example, right?
But you said you would...
Bro, dude, Destiny is actually, like, unhealthily addicted to Arc Raiders now, okay? I sent him happy birthday, and he didn't respond to me, dude. I'm cooked. I'm cooked. I said happy birthday, he didn't respond to me. He also didn't respond to other people. We're so cooked. He's just addicted. It's over. Guys. Oh my god. Not the Verso Ender choosing fantasy over reality. The Verso Ender choosing to no life Arc Raiders over creating content.
Specifically condemn it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the context. Like, if
why?
I think because I do think that potentially, there could be, if I just let it play and don't specifically address it. I think that there could be action by Twitch. But again, just because there's action by Twitch or there's a risk for my channel doesn't mean that I'm accepting culpability if something bad happens. I just want to be clear about the distinction there. And second, I do think that there's a moral responsibility to condemn these acts of violence or even acts, for example, of deception or whatever. And I think that there's a potential risk and you should minimize risk where possible. Here's the difference, right? Mitigation of risk and an obligation to avoid risk doesn't equal culpability if something bad ends up happening after the fact. And this is easily, you can understand that if you just apply any of the comparisons that I've talked about, that no one in the context that I provided, that you're examining someone saying some unhinged shit about Charlie Kirk, and then all of a sudden, oops, someone kills him. No one could ever come to a lib creator and you would defend, you would say, this is insane. You know, he was watching a video of someone else doing it. No, he wasn't doing it.
What if I could show you a video of Denims herself saying that somebody should call CPS on Ethan?
Go for it. I would say that's independently bad, yeah.
Okay. Apparently there's a video.
All right, show us.
It's on my stream. Just pull up my stream.
Uh-oh.
Can you share it on Discord?
Yes. Hold on.
What was that?
You acting like I have like a problem condemning Denims or Hassan.
We're getting into all these hypotheticals though. Like, you know what I mean? Yes, I think they're culpable, and I think
principles. Hutch, why do you think I'm doing this? I'm doing this because I don't want you. I love you. I love you, my boy.
No, you're doing this because
allow and be like, there's no fucking comparison
you're doing this to avoid the possibility.
Okay, quickly reaffirm the by the way, our creators has AI voices and actual AI enemies. Yeah, I have nothing against that. I have nothing against using the AI enemies. Maybe a little bit against AI voices, because I know that voice actors have a hard time trying to get jobs and shit. But you know, I don't have an issue. My issue is when you're a prompt engineer and you're cringe and you're just wrong all the time.
That these creators did something that was extremely harmful.
No. If they advocated for CPS, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to condemn that.
Okay, well,
even by the way, just to let you know.
Let me watch the clip. Let me just watch the clip. Hold on, I'm pressing.
Wait, hold on. Is it condemn? Is it condemnation? Is it condemnation though? If Pisco spends all of his time bashing Ethan Klein. How much condemn? I hate the fact that it's like, oh yeah, condemn. No, motherfucker. Real condemnation is actually going out of your way to go after something, right? Going after someone, right? Because you can't say it's a real condemnation until you spend at least some degree of your stream time going after someone, right? Yeah, I don't know.
Play. I'm pressing play.
No, but I'm telling you in advance. I don't even need to see the clip.
I will
see the clip. I want to see the clip. If they laugh about it after the fact, I'll condemn that too. Guess what? It doesn't resolve the issue.
But you don't okay, hold on. Let me watch the clip. I'm done talking for a second. Hold on.
Shit in their house. And then Denims hosts this and see what she says. And then now we wonder why people are calling Child Protective Services.
But they called it before I even did this stream.
He lets his dogs shit all over his mansion, and he just leaves the shit on the floor, something that is probably related to the fact that his former housekeeper is suing him for a number of different reasons. So I would assume he doesn't actually have a housekeeper anymore, or perhaps he
Ethan called Pisco a shitty lawyer and it broke his brain. Yeah, because that's his pride and joy.
Lost his extra housekeeper. So now the house is just like covered in dog shit. And he has kids, and his kids like crawl into the dog shit, and God forbid, I don't know what they do with it. I don't know if they eat it or if it's just from like contact with it with their hands or something. But they contracted a parasite that I had previously never heard of in my life called Giardia from the dog shit.
Giardia.
Oh, it was Denim's chat that was saying called CPS.
Dude,
hold on.
How is it that like maybe once a week?
That's insane.
You're
never
nuts. You're not. You don't think. Hang on. If your chat was spamming,
are you shitting me?
Hang on. If your chat was spamming, call the cops on Rob Noor. You wouldn't tell them to not call the cops. You wouldn't step in.
What I said. Wait, that is not what I said.
Do you have a responsibility?
I didn't say that I wouldn't. Hutch,
as a creator.
Yes, that doesn't mean you're culpable. Yes, that doesn't mean you're culpable. You understand
the
difference
there? Of course it does.
Just
what do you mean?
You have a self-stand. No, it fucking doesn't. If someone ends up, so you're saying if I failed to do my due diligence in like saying and
I can't sweep for Pisco here.
an affirmative thing, hey guys, I don't agree with this, and you shouldn't call the cops on Rob Noor.
Oh man.
If I don't do that, and if I just let it play out, either because I don't see it or because I'm negligent, because I'm just fucking twiddling my thumbs.
No.
Culpability.
No. That's not what I said though. Let me give you a hypothetical. You love hypotheticals. Let me give you a hypothetical.
Okay? Yeah, I do love it. Yeah.
Let's say all of us on Live and Learn. Okay, you, me, Soypill, and IRI. We all watch the same video independently with our own viewers. Okay, and in that video, somebody makes a claim, and then like all of our chats are like spamming. You know, like somebody needs to call the cops on Rob Noor. Okay, and then somebody calls, and we don't do anything. We don't police it at all. And then somebody calls the cops on Rob Noor. Are none of us culpable, or are all of us culpable? None of us are culpable.
No, the culpable party is the parties that encouraged it. explicitly with their intention, their active intention to do so, and those who did it. That's what's
okay. I mean, we just have like a major philosophical difference between responsible content creation, because
I want you to apply this standard. The standard that you're just setting out, anytime that because there have been left-wing acts of violence, and there are chats that will talk about this kind of shit, saying, these people should, these people exist. These people exist.
Of course.
And you would never say, well, because you failed to moderate your unhinged chat, as opposed to saying, okay, you have a responsibility to upkeep it. I would agree with that, no doubt.
I think like
that's insane. That's strict liability for what your fucking chat does.
Maybe we're getting hung up on the term, but I think like at minimum, you could say that you, through your inaction and through your tacit endorsement, really, of what Bad Empanada was saying in that video, and then you like ignoring your chat, like multiple people in your chat, and you have mods, like she looks at her chat constantly. She chose to not like do anything about those comments in that moment. Like at that point, you have contributed to.
Wait a second. I'm not talking about legal culpability. I'm talking about ethical culpability.
Yes, of course you ethically.
No, I'm seeing people in the chat, so I'm only talking about ethical culpability. But go ahead.
This is a major philosophical difference between you and me. I think if you are a creator and you're seeing specific calls to action, especially something as serious as government intervention on somebody that you don't like, you have a responsibility to step in at that point and say, guys, this is way too far. Right? Excuse me?
Otherwise, you're culpable?
Otherwise, you have contributed to like that event happening in some small way, or you could, at the very least, potentially have done it. The reality is, we can't know who made that call. Was it someone from Hassan's audience? Was it someone from her audience? Was it someone from Kaceytron's audience? We don't know. But in a general sense,
your burden to show that they are culpable. You just because it's hard to find evidence of the particular thing that shows culpability doesn't relieve you of your responsibility to show it.
When I say culpable, do you hear like 100% responsible?
No, I would hear morally culpable for the thing occurring. That's what I understand.
There's a shared culpability is my point. And I think you're using that like uncertainty about where the call came from as a means to just like deflect all responsibility. Like you're saying that they had no ethical obligation to moderate their own chat as they're like making suggestions to call CPS, which is wild to me.
What you're culpable for is what you did wrong. What you did wrong was failure to moderate appropriately your chat. What you're not culpable for is actually fucking calling CPS.
If you were in Ethan's shoes, just try to imagine, okay?
No, that's not. No, so I can totally grant that if I accept all of Ethan's priors, if I take his point of view, we're not talking about from his lights, does he think it's justified? He's doing it.
No, but I'm asking you to just imagine, like, who would you have blamed? Do you think you could understand blaming like the whole pool of creators that were all dogpiling and encouraging it and joking about it, laughing about it, even encouraging it?
What?
Blaming them for the fucking for CPS showing up at your house.
No, that's unhinged.
That's unhinged. No, you would.
So I want to hear you say it then. So I'm going to give you.
You'd be like, well, example. We can never know, so I can't blame any of them. You would not do that, bro.
If your community actively encourages doxing, and you fail to moderate that doxing, and then doxing in fact occurs, is the streamer culpable for doxing?
I'll tell you how I would feel. Hang on. I'm telling you exactly. I'm telling you exactly. Imagine me, right? And I found out that somebody in my community doxed someone. And there was a thing that maybe we missed, like I was looking away from chat or something like that. I would feel responsible.
I'm not going to be distracted. I'm giving you an example.
I'm giving you an answer.
No, you didn't answer that question. You said what you would do, that you would feel responsible if some other shit happened, even when you were negligent. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a situation in which the community doxes, you're aware of it, and you don't moderate it. Intentionally, you don't moderate. You see it's there, and you don't moderate it. Mm-hmm. Is the streamer culpable for the doxing?
I think they are partly responsible. Yes.
Okay, so it's a standard you would apply that the mere non-moderation decisions as to your community gives you culpability for the attacks, however attenuated, that might occur because you fail to moderate your community, even though those
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
and those wrong. Okay,
I can't believe that. I'm a bit incredulous right now because you seem to be you seem to be totally closed off to the possibility that a streamer has any reasonable like expectation of being responsible in their moderation. Because what's the point of moderation?
Yeah, this is silly. I have no idea. I literally have no idea why the fuck Pisco is dying on this hill. Like, I am actually also flabbergasted. I think you should absolutely. I think that you should absolutely have some degree, as a content creator, to have some degree of like moderation. You have to. You can't make this argument. Yeah, I don't know.
Hutch, I literally said the opposite. So
I don't know. Pisco had the lead, by the way. Like, Pisco actually had the lead in the debate in the beginning. he unironically had the lead in this debate in the beginning. I don't know why he threw a fucking 10-point gold lead. Like,
and what's the point? What's the point of moderation?
First, I'm going to establish that what you just represented is literally the opposite of what I said. So you heard me, didn't you, when I said that there is a responsibility to moderate? You heard that?
But what,
did you hear that?
What's the point of the?
I'm asking you if you heard.
I'm trying to make sense of what you're saying because what you're saying is. Hang on, what you're saying is contradictory to me because otherwise, well, what is the point of moderation then?
So I just want to make sure.
Can you answer?
YouTube will literally ban your channel if you don't moderate your channel. Yeah, I mean, you would think so. But instead, YouTube gives you strikes instead for having sexual material on clips that are clearly not sexual in any way. So
that question,
you know
I will.
Yes, I heard you. Yes, I heard you. What's the point of what's the point of moderation?
There's self-standing obligations to moderate.
Trust me, if that was true, Bad Empanada would already be banned a long time ago.
Risk that a streamer I think has there's a low cost of compliance and where there are obvious potential benefits to a low cost compliance incident. The fact that
like Bad Empanada still has like a career on YouTube should give you pause, right?
You have a self-standing obligation to mitigate risk. I'm going to repeat it, make sure you hear it. So I'm going to say it twice. That you violated your duty to moderate does not mean you are culpable for actions that underlie it.
If you're not culpable,
oh my God! I mean, so you understand that there are two obligations, right?
But what you're saying makes no sense because if you're saying you're there to mitigate risk, but you're not culpable if something happens, well, then what the fuck are you?
What's the contradiction?
What risk? What risk are you mitigating?
Yeah. So the risk that you're mitigating does pertain potentially to later on events, but that doesn't.
What does that mean, dude? Come on, don't say events. Okay. Risk of what?
Of either bad conduct, malicious conduct, whatever is responsible, whatever's down the line.
By who?
Absolutely. So I just want to make sure that you understand the distinction here. Do you understand a distinction between a duty to mitigate risk that is by properly moderating and the culpable actions of intentional people who are doing the thing? And the reason I'm asking this of you is if you don't understand that difference, I think that there's like a huge issue in communication here because just because you fail to moderate and fail to optimally minimize risk doesn't mean that you're responsible for the volitional malicious conduct.
No,
of
you're not. You're not. Obviously, listen. Whoever called CPS, that was their decision. Ultimately, they're responsible for their actions. But you seem to be like aloof to the idea that people with tremendous levels of influence, especially when we're talking about that particular.
I don't even think Pisco believes this. I don't even think Pisco believes this. There's no way Pisco even believes this. Otherwise, what's the point? What's the point of going after people who still like lionize people like Charlie Kirk? What's the point of going after these people? What's the point of going after Tim Pool? What's the point of trying to go after right-wing violence? Right? Aren't these like all just stochastic terroristic like attacks? What about the 2 National Guardsmen that's been shot? Like he doesn't believe in this. He doesn't believe in any of this. There's no way, there's no shot. I don't know if there's a way for me to steelman Pisco here because I'm just flabbergasted by this, to be frank.
Shared community.
I'm not going to get distracted.
I'm not trying to distract you. You're acting aloof to the idea that these people could potentially influence their own audience through action or inaction to do something like that. So is Denims 100% responsible for what happened? No, but she's partly culpable, in my opinion, because she contributed to that culture and that community and that rhetoric that led to ultimately the call happening in the first place. I can't give you is she this percentage to blame or that percentage, but there's a general shared culpability.
So does Denims have significant culpability for the CPS call that she did not place? That there's no evidence that I've seen her encourage.
I never said that.
Wait. I'm just asking you the question, Hutch. Do you think that there's significant culpability by Denims?
Define significant. Are we talking percentages here?
That is a primitive, and I will say I'll put a percentage on it. 5% significant.
Maybe, yeah.
So you think that Denims is 5% responsible?
I don't know. I have no.
Yes, easily. Oh my god. I don't. No. Hold on. Oh my god. No, Hutch needs to grow some balls. Okay, I can't have more balls than these actual men in their like 40s, who have gone through puberty before. Like I can't be the only one with balls around here. Okay. Yes, you should say that. Yeah, I think Denims has at least 20% culpability. I think Denims has at least 20% culpability. 30%, even 40%, even 70%. I would argue, you know what? I would argue that Denims, okay, good old Denims, has at least 70% culpability. Boom.
Way to give you
Headshot.
maybe, sure, yeah.
That is, and what percentage is Kaceytron responsible?
2%. I don't care. Who cares? It doesn't matter.
So you agree, at a bare minimum, Kaceytron, as I understand it, insignificant responsibility. Fair?
No, you're
Yeah, but Kaceytron isn't about the CPS calls. Kaceytron is about the copyright shit, okay? Like, you're mixing up your
missing
shit.
the point. There's a shared culpability, friend.
No, but so first of all, I don't...
Finally, Hutch gets it, okay? It's Israel versus Gaza. Finally, we are back around to Israel versus Gaza. I knew that everything just wraps back around to Israel versus Gaza. Why wouldn't it?
I don't even accept that we would apply the culpable standard to the actual act itself. We would apply a culpability to the failure to moderate and uphold the norm of moderating, but it wouldn't extend to the actual act itself. But even assuming that we would, the notion that you would put 5 or greater percentage on a call that you have no evidence that she encouraged, no evidence that she knew about it. The only thing you have is chat comments that you can't prove she read. That have been provided in a video to you.
But that's risky, right?
All you have, and you're willing to say.
But that's risky, right? You said that was risky, right?
Hang on a second. So if she knew about it, potentially,
do you think it's 0%?
Oh my god, this is crazy. So
you say my 5% is dumb.
I'm gonna lay out the case.
Do you think it's 0%?
So for me, it's 0%. 0% culpability for the.
Wait, but
Huh? What?
wait, you just said a minute ago that if you don't moderate, there's a risk that someone in your audience could do something, right?
Correct. That doesn't mean that you're.
How could it be 0% then?
It's not. They're not the same. Wrong.
Oh, I'm being told to finish the clip. Hold on. There's more to the clip.
Okay, go for it.
Already lost the clip. I stopped like a minute in. Here, hold on.
We already have Mold Mondays. Now we have Shit Saturdays.
Also, this is not a joking matter, by the way. It can be very severe and deadly to small children. I mean, much like many other illnesses, it's very, very, very dangerous when infants get the same sicknesses that adults get. There are lots of things that you can get as an adult. You're totally fine. You'll be A-okay. No problem. A child, a small infant that has no immune system, shouldn't be catching.
So I don't know if you're watching the same thing, but she's telling her audience that, she's strongly implying that Ethan's children might die.
Anything.
No wonder his house is covered in dog shit, and he's neglected children raised by nannies
just
have
click to a minute
contracted
into the
parasites
video.
previously unknown to science from the
I don't
feces.
see any
I
video.
put it in the Discord.
Okay, one second.
I wonder why he skipped over all of this, because everything that he said, everything that I said in this story, which by the way was apparently compiled by his crew, playing.
No wonder this motherfucker is always sick. Yeah. It all makes sense now. It makes sense why he doesn't care about Palestinian children when he is neglecting his own. How is this happening? How is it happening? How?
Watch that clip and try to tell me she's 0%, bro. There's no way. He's watching the clip, guys.
I fail to see how this is encouraging someone to call CPS.
What?
I didn't say that it encourages someone to call CPS. You don't have to. You don't have to encourage. Do you have to encourage someone to call CPS to contribute to the risk of someone calling it?
No.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to suss out for you is the mere, potential increase of risk. And I agree. I mean, like the mere fact that she's reporting, like even.
I think a good question to ask is like, has Pisco ever conceded to anything? Ever? I think that's another valuable question to ask, in my opinion.
Viewing the video at all, right? Even in a critical lens, might increase the risk of someone calling CPS, right? Even if you were examining a video just to criticize it, right? Just to tear it apart. If you're a big enough streamer, that might contribute to a risk on net that you don't know everyone who follows you fucking watches it. So what I'm saying is there's a self-standing obligation to moderate 100%, but that doesn't coextend to substantive. And here I'm not talking about legal, ethical culpability that I'm going to impose, some kind of ethical breach with respect to the substantive act that we're talking about. And the notion, and I'm going to lay it out here because I watched the whole clip, that you're going to give Denims, as you sit here, 5% or greater.
You came up with that number.
You bought it, right? So the fact that I said it, you didn't have to adopt that. You didn't have to say, yes, I agree more than 5%. You didn't have to say, you asked me, what do you consider significant? I gave you a number, 5%. And you said, yes. No one put a gun to your head, Hutch, that you had to accept that number. So for you, it's chicken shit right now.
No, but you're trying to box me in. I'm not thinking about these things in like percentage points, my friend. I'm at a much more top level view of things. I'm not gonna tell you 2% for Casey, 5% for this. I mean, my brain is not working. Your lawyer brain is going there, and I'm not with you on that.
First of all, when I say significance, the 5% significance threshold, that's more of like a statistical. If anything, it's not my lawyer background. It's like my econ statistics background from undergrad. That I know that there's a 5% significance level, 1%, and so here I'm giving 5%, but I wouldn't even give 1%. So I'm being more generous and saying okay, significant in this range. I guess I'm being less.
Yeah, but I would even think 5% is ridiculous, right? Does anybody here also think that 5% is just absolutely redonkulous? What? How do you arrive at 5%? She is literally concern trolling about Ethan's kids, and she wants what's worse for Ethan, right? Because I'm not even commentating that much anymore, just mainly because it's like I don't even know what to say, right? Like this is so ridiculous to the point where I'm just like, there's nothing much I can say here, to be honest. Right?
With 5%, but I just want to be clear. So I'm going to lay it out. So you got to let me lay it out. All right.
Okay, all right.
Because you did adopt it.
Because some things are just indefensible on its face, right? Like some things are just simply indefensible on its face, and there's just nothing I can say that would be enlightening enough for me to like present like an alternative side to it.
Do you want to come back and say I take back 5%? Are you going to say that?
I'm going to stick with it. I'm sticking with the 5%. Okay. In fact, I'm saying it's specifically 5%. That's what I think.
Okay. The fact that you would say that Denims deserves 5% culpability, not for failure to moderate and her norms with respect to her moderation responsibilities and her norm to minimize.
Hold on. Wait.
Do you think that Pisco would still defend this if it turns out that the identity of the caller has been revealed and it was actually somebody who was a Denims fan?
I'm going to say it's 5.25%.
Okay, greater than 5%.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. But how you're doing this right now sounds like you're kind of like being like you're trying to say that what I'm saying.
Dude, 50% easy. I don't even need to try. No, 50% easy. Easily 50%. Yeah, this is so silly. Obviously, like, I can easily just say, yeah, it's 50%. Actually, 50%. Easily 50%. It's not even close. 50%. Done.
It is ridiculous.
A little bit, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So what the fuck is your point with that? How would we assess significance in any other degree? How would we supposed to? So clearly, you're arguing that because you're not going to say that if they have insignificant responsibility that they should be punished this way. Fair. So how else am I supposed to assess their culpability in relation to what happened?
Because I think you're trying to.
What, like, does Hutch need to give you fucking statistics or some shit? Like, why the fuck are you debate broing this? Because at some point, we have to kind of appeal to common sense, right? And you know what? I hate the term, okay? I do hate the term, like, common sense, whatever, right? But at the end of the day, what else can you appeal to if not for common sense, right? If all the lines, if all the points point in one direction, but you still say, no, I don't think it points in one direction, there's no helping you. There's nothing anybody can do to help you, right? Like, what can somebody say at this point in order to convince you out of your position? Nothing, right? If you present all the evidence in the world to somebody and they still do not get it, what can you really do in that instance? Nothing, right? Nothing. Just straight up nothing.
Come at it from a direction of like, you're hitting it with this like degree of specificity that I don't think, like, I think you're using that to try to like weasel out of some pretty just obvious observations to make. Like,
yes,
if you were in Ethan's shoes and you couldn't know for sure, like, from whose community this caller came,
you would do a shotgun blunderbuss approach.
Any reasonable,
regardless of their responsibility, regardless.
No, what I'm trying to say is any reasonable person in that position would have a shared kind of like animosity or sense of blame towards just the whole group.
Even for people who have insignificant responsibility, that would be reasonable.
I don't think there's anything
would it
like
be reasonable or not.
But this is what I think you're doing with, like, you're using these words like significant and trying to get at these percentage points. Just like try to engage with what I'm saying without trying to specify it further.
Like, a person in Ethan's position, given the fact that he can't pinpoint exactly,
would be justified.
Who among the culpable parties is most responsible?
Would be justified in being angry at the whole group.
I understand what you're suggesting.
Okay.
But the question is, there's a minimum threshold. You wouldn't say that a person in Ethan's position.
But this is unquantifiable.
Oh my God, Hutch, let me fucking talk.
Okay.
So you wouldn't say that someone in Ethan's position, it would be reasonable for them to target someone who has like no culpability, right?
Sure. Like, yes, of course, yes.
All right.
Yes.
And you would also, you would not accept that he target people who have trivial responsibility. Whatever word you want to put on it, man.
I don't think it's trivial, bro.
There's a certain that's what we're talking about, and that's why you're asking for specific percentages. You did ask.
What
did you mean by 5%? What did you mean by significant?
But yeah, exactly. But like, you're the one that's introducing these like individual values that we can't quantify. The point is, someone in Ethan's position, I think, would be justified in being suspicious of everyone in the sense that, like, you know, like, I don't know who's community, but it could have been any of them, and just being angry at like all of them. And certainly he was justified in feeling a sense of like what I would think would be like righteous rage, that after the fact, it became a joke. It was like a joke to these people. And at best, it was a joke. At worst, the same creators after the fact, including more recently Taylor Lorenz, who was making a joke about it, like they thought it was like a source.
I dislike the way Pisco is acting. I agree.
Of comedy. Like that would, I don't know about you, but that would make me.
By the way, I just want to say, I have my own issues with Hutch concerning him. Like, just forget about Pisco for now. Like, just I the fact that Hutch, then if Hutch understands how anti-fans work, right? Assuming that Hutch understands how anti-fans work, I don't see why Hutch couldn't rebuild the bridge with Destiny. Because the anti-fans want to keep them separated. The anti-fans know that all of this is for naught. The anti-fans know that they're just trolling and trying to divide them and trying to do wicked shit like this, right? Why play by their rules? There's no need to play by their rules, right?
It would boil with rage if that was me. Like that's not funny. There's nothing about that that's funny. We're well beyond internet beef at this point. The government, you're in the system now. Like maybe you're asking yourself like, oh my God, are they going to take my kids away? That is way too far. And I don't think it's trivial to mock that or make light of it or justify it.
Whether you think it's trivial on some other norm of being like respectful to people, after some tragedy occurs, of like, having some standard of decency, that is a separate inquiry as to whether or not their conduct, behavior, like it violates some separate norm or standard of decency, separate from the act itself, right? Because I'll give you an example, right? If someone laughs at the fact that Charlie Kirk got assassinated after the fact, you wouldn't say that they're culpable for the act itself, and you would recognize that having their own like moral violation in the laughter is separate from extending culpability of the assassination itself. No, you understand that, don't you? Yes,
it would be a different kind of calculation. Yes, so like instead of
I'm saying.
Right, but this is not. This is both. This is a both situation. So like all of those creators were, number one, saying that it was justified, and number two, they were joking about it after the fact.
I've been asking for people to present when one of these three creators said that calling
You just watched a video. You just watched a video
in which she.
I'm sleepy. Everyone should pause during a video every 1 minute and say something in the reaction to a video. Just be clear, and they should use puns.
Never said that. This predates. So I just want. This is the logical entailment of you. You agree that video, edited in the way it was, represents and purports, and it makes sense that it does, that this happened before the CPS call. So she can't say say that this is her justification of the CPS event because linear time.
Yeah, that's the point. That's the point.
For this shit.
This was before. Like, okay, hang on. Let me walk you through this. Okay. Did she Did she agree with the claim that Bad Empanada was making in the video that Ethan's kids got Giardi because he was negligent?
She says that it's dangerous.
No. Did she agree is what I asked.
I'm not sure that. Hang on, I'll rewatch it.
No,
I'll rewatch it too, because to me, she's very clearly saying like, oh, this explains so much, and like she's very obviously agreeing with the claim.
So someone asked that, and she's reading from a viewer who says it makes sense that he doesn't care about Palestinian kids because he's negligent on his own.
No. Like it started like 55 seconds in.
Okay, she's 55.
Ethan Klein's been up to, and every time I manage to find more and more terrible shit. This is where Ethan tells a story about his family getting Giardo.
Now we have shit
terrible
Saturdays.
shit.
Also, this is not a joking matter, by the way. It can be very severe and deadly to small children.
I'm not seeing what you're alleging.
Much like many other illnesses.
She literally says, this is not a joking matter. What are they debating? They're debating whether or not Denims is culpable for the CPS calls. That's what they're debating right now. This is such a silly argument. Yeah, dude. She literally said this is not a joke. This is not a joking matter. She literally said it's not a joking matter. What? Ooh, what does she mean by that? Yeah, what did she mean by that?
Very, very, very
I'll give you the exact timestamp. Hold on.
Dangerous when infants get the same sicknesses that adults get. There are lots of things that you can get as an adult. You're totally fine. You'll be A-okay. No problem. A child, a small infant that has no immune system, shouldn't be catching anything.
No wonder his house is covered in dog shit, and he's
like Denims could literally go out and say, hey, I called CPS myself. I did the action of calling CPS myself. And then Pisco would still be like, what if she's lying though? What? Huh? Like she would be the kind of motherfucker that would do that, but I'm not online enough anymore. But yeah, she kind of said, oh wow, that's horrible for kids in better words, but I don't know why. No. She's basically pushing it to the point where it would be obvious if someone were to call CPS based on her words, especially somebody who is mentally ill, right? So therefore, it is a reasonable assumption to make that, yeah, somebody is probably going to end up calling CPS based off of what Denims says. And this is what they're debating over, yeah.
Affected children raised by nannies have contracted parasites previously unknown to science from the feces. I wonder why he skipped over all of this, because everything that I said in this story
when she, okay, hold on. So 144, she goes, what do you think she meant by that?
Wait, hang on. So this is all
144.
Oh God, call Hutch Schizo. Do the anti-fan thing. Call Hutch Schizo. Do it.
Start at 130. Start at 130, but start
You gotta pull out the S card, okay?
at 130, but then like
not catch anything.
Okay.
So it
So,
cuts
man,
the first cut after.
not hand, not just push. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's something you play stupid about, right? Like we all know it. You know it. We all know it, right? This is something like when somebody is playing stupid, you know that they're playing stupid, right? It's a matter of common sense. Yeah.
130. It goes to bad empanada.
We all know it. We all know
No
what's
wonder
going
it's covered in dog shit.
Yeah.
And neglected children raised but contracted parasites previously unknown to science.
And she goes,
Which, by the way, was
skipped over all this.
apparently compiled by his crew. Playing
No wonder this motherfucker's always sick. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm
wonder
going to
this
say
mother-
that
no
based
wonder
on that
this-
reaction.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that's bad. Empanada said that. She's kind of being cute and suggesting
No,
that
no, no.
Ethan is hiding.
Wait, hold on.
When I say cute, what I mean to say is I'm going to grant you something. Okay? Can you? Are you listening? I don't know if you're listening.
I'm listening, but I want you to. She keeps going, and it's pretty fucking important.
We listened to it.
No. But did you listen to the rest of it? She goes. She says.
It all makes sense now. It all makes sense.
She says, "No wonder." Da, 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 da. So she's like obviously granting that Bad Empanada's claims are correct.
Okay, listen. I think that she, by her tone and indication there, is suggesting that she probably is sympathetic to the view that this is neglectful. Okay.
Hit by
I think that's
yes.
pretty much implied by her conduct. I don't think it's explicit, but here's what I'm going to ask you, Hutch.
I will accept that, but I think what you're saying is a very mild interpretation of what she said. Because when she says, no wonder, da 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 da, that is her very obviously saying
she's
that
suggesting
she believed that what he was saying was correct.
She is suggesting that by her kind of like demure or kind of like little coy little thing that she thinks that there's something like either negligent or fucked up or there's there's potential credence to what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you this, Hutch. Does taking the view that Ethan was neglectful in the contraction of Giardia, as described by Ethan, does having that view that it in fact was neglectful, if that is your view, does someone with that view who expresses that view, are they culpable?
Now I'm gonna do the lawyer thing.
Let me ask the fuck. You won't let me fucking talk because you know it's absurd.
No.
Hold on.
No, I'm not.
Dude, is Pisco okay, bro?
Lawyer you. I'm gonna lawyer you, bro.
I am not moving. I am not going to respond unless you let me.
No, but you're doing the fucking. You can't take. Hold on. Would you agree?
You can ask your question. So you presented
Would you agree?
I granted you something. My question comes first, Hutch, and then you can ask, and I will answer. I've answered all your questions.
Why are you? Okay, I will answer your question straight up, and we're getting to my questions. Okay, ask the question again. Ask the question again.
And you interrupt me.
Ask the question again. Go ahead.
Is the expression of the view that one feels that Ethan Klein was in fact negligent with respect to the Giardia incident, does expression of that view on one stream give one culpability for a CPS call later on by some unknown party?
In a vacuum, with no other factors, no, that alone would not be enough to convict, okay? But you're familiar.
Not even close.
But you're familiar.
The ethical culpability.
Hold on, but you're familiar with the concept of like factors, right?
I understand factors.
Okay, so there's other factors. So like, it's her substantiating Bad Empanada's claim. Like she very clearly is telling her audience, "Oh wow, this makes so much sense now." She's very clearly saying
She's
that
implicitly
the claims
doing it, yes.
very clearly, and then she also says, "By the way, guys, this is really serious. His kids could die." And then also, hold on, I'm not done. There's one more factor, okay?
Yep.
And then also, there's hella people in her chat spamming, somebody should call CPS. Now, would you agree that that is some level of possible culpability?
No.
Based GigaChad. Based GigaChad. Based GigaChad, okay? Based GigaChad. Bro is unaffected, okay? The lion cares not for the arguments of the lamb.
Okay. Not for the action itself, for the CPS call. That's unhinged to think that she has culpability for that, merely that, for the CPS call. That's unhinged. And let me explain why, because we're going to get into it, right? So
you think it's a 0% chance?
Right? So that I think is a violation. One, I don't think it's necessarily negligent what you're talking about. Kids will do things and accidents happen, and I don't think that it shows negligence. I just want to be clear about that. That they contracted a disease. All right. So I want to be clear that I don't agree that this is necessarily indicative of negligent behavior. Just to be honest with you. Okay.
With Ethan,
you're arguing like a defense attorney right now, which is not a bad thing, okay? I appreciate defense attorneys, okay? But she didn't pay you, motherfucker. She didn't pay you. Hello? Has she paid you? Has she paid you to be her defense attorney? Has she paid you to be her defense attorney? Yeah. Where is this obligation to defend her come from?
With his fan? Okay, yeah, I agree.
Where is it coming from?
I'm just expressing. Why do you just like say like I agree? Well,
but I don't know how we got there. What are we doing? Are you responding to people in your chat?
So the thing is, I'll say things and people will distort everything I'm saying. So I want to be clear about where I stand. I don't think that the mere fact that your kid contracted Giardia, which Ethan states very strongly that he believes that his children have during the video, I don't think that the mere fact that they contracted it, even through feces, even through dog feces, even through even a perfectly responsive parent, this kind of shit happens. And I don't think that you've shown negligence by the mere fact that they've contracted this disease. The reason I'm saying this, Hutch, because it feels like I need to justify everything I say to you, is to make sure people understand my view on whether or not this entails negligence. It's not my view that it entails negligence, but the notion that if one has the belief that it is negligent, and they express that belief that they say, oh yeah, that's negligent. Why? How could you I would never let my baby do that. That's just irresponsible parenting. That the expression of that view in isolation or in conjunction with the different things that you've said, that constitutes culpability for some whack job later on who calls CPS, that is bizarre, untenable, totally fucked up, not true. And you would never apply this standard to anyone else. I mean, it really just boggles the mind that you think that independent conduct, now they could be violating their own norms of moderation. They could be violating a standard of decency with respect to other creators to give caveats, etc. But that is a different ethical violation than culpability for the act itself, which I want to get to. At some point, you'll let me put that out.
Well, now I want to like test your ethics here because, like, okay, yes, so for example, we've
what is this autism? This autism is insane. What is this autism, bro? What is this autism? This can't be. Okay. All right.
We've had there's been an example of a LLM that enabled someone's unaliving ideation, and then that person went on to unalive themselves. Now, the ultimate culpability for taking the decision to unalive themselves, that would be rest on the person, right? Like ultimately they're the one that made the decision, but like, does the LLM and the software company that engineered that model have any culpability there?
Yeah, so what we're talking about is the context of products liability. And I think that you can make an argument that if the usage of the device itself constitutes an unjustifiable risk, such that we can reasonably foresee that this kind of shit would happen based on that. I just think you're close to making that empirical case for this kind of conduct, and certainly not the conduct, if it's merely negligent in the context of these kinds of statement, to like, if someone who's negligent on that, you're going to get a civil judgment or something. And again, we're talking ethics here, so we're just removing it from its context. But I do acknowledge that there can be cause of action and culpability for negligence and stuff, but not when it's being, like, the causal chain here is being broken by the clearly culpable actors who do the bad thing here. And so, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say that you have some kind of inherently dangerous device. Okay, so you have a lawnmower that it contains a product defect. Right? Contains a product defect, and it is.
Wait, oh my god, this is a yes or no question, bro. Oh my god, dude, Hutch is too nice. Hutch is too nice. Hutch needs to do the thing. Hutch actually needs to do the thing. Hutch needs to go, well, yes or no. Yes or no?
Dangerous to maneuver, and sometimes the shit flies off. No? And then so someone is operating it and uses the lawnmower to kill their own kid on purpose. Would you say that lawnmower, which has the defect, which could, cause the death of a child in certain circumstances, carries with it a risk? You would not, exactly, right? So you have to understand that there's this notion of in the damages context in law, again, but I think this also applies to our own intuitions and ethics. There's this notion of proximate causation. Okay, that in order to really feel liable for the kinds of things that we are talking about here, and we're talking about like,
wait, hold on, we're not even talking about legally speaking, right? Nobody asked for a lecture on like legal shit, right? Like to be very, very honest, to be very fair here, right? Like nobody is trying to make an argument here for whether or not like this is legally prosecutable, right? This is another tactic of bad faithness where you begin to conflate legal arguments with moral arguments, which are just two completely different things. But
big lawsuits from an ethical perspective, but in the civil damages context, for whatever harm is being caused, that there's some kind of attenuation, and oftentimes the causal chain is cut off by the culpable conduct of other people. So for
Bailey,
example, let's say that there are two actors involved in some kind of lawsuit, and one really, they did something horribly intentional and malicious. This notion of proximate causation, which is, I think, reflecting our intuitive notions of morality, that is going to, notwithstanding potential reckless conduct of others, we're going to see the cause and source of the harm as being too attenuated to track to the specific actor who was negligent but not intentional and malicious. And so that's what I'm trying to describe here is no doubt that there potentially is some like source of negligence here or some kind of bad statement that's made by Denims. I would agree with that. I even agree that like she is implying that she agrees that it was negligent. What you're failing to provide is a close enough proximity to the malicious conduct. You're not even close to ascribe the kind of malicious, intentional, culpable conduct that would justify these kinds of things and, you know, bankrupting people. I mean,
I don't know how to, but I don't know how to, I don't know how to reconcile what you just said with
that. But that's impossible. That's impossible to prove. That's impossible to prove. You're asking Hutch to provide an unreasonable amount of evidence that he is unable to produce. This is impossible to produce. This is impossible to produce. Straight up, right?
With respect to culpability and this idea that it's absurd to suggest that she had any culpability. I don't know how to reconcile that with the fact that you called her negligent. And I don't know how to reconcile that with the fact that you said that by not moderating, you increase the risk of something happening. Like you seem capable in one moment of understanding that someone can have, can indirectly like contribute to something happening. You seem to be able to comprehend that over here. But then when we get to the point where I say she's partly culpable, just like all those creators are, you fall back on this idea that it's preposterous to even propose that.
Let me build the case out. So, because clearly I'm not explaining myself well. You understand there could be different ethical obligations, correct?
No.
Generally, like in life?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So like you have an obligation, in life. Like you have an obligation
yes.
Not to infringe the rights of others. You have an obligation to take due care when you're driving the car. Okay.
Yes.
And a violation of one ethical obligation doesn't necessitate a violation of some other ethical obligation that is distinct, correct?
Yes,
so like
sure.
The fact that so when I say that you could have a self-standing violation of an obligation related to responsible moderating, and that doesn't entail culpability for the specific act. What I'm telling you is the following. You have a self-standing ethical obligation not to pursue frivolous CPS calls or, harassing false reports to CPS or whatever.
I'm not talking about.
Listen to
Sorry.
take a second to listen, all right?
All right.
So
you can be a little wordy sometimes is all.
I understand. Okay, just, all right. Ethical obligation number 1. Do not falsify maliciously or state things to CPS that are frivolous or not bases for genuine concern or something like that, okay? Or not sufficient. Ethical obligation number 1. Ethical obligation number 2. Do not needlessly increase risk by failing to responsibly moderate. I just gave you 2 different ethical obligations, yes?
Yeah,
yes. And you would agree that violation of one ethical obligation does not entail in any way violation of both, correct?
No, not necessarily. Like nobody,
so
but nobody.
Agree that one can violate one, not the other, right?
Yes.
Not moderate responsibly and do the malicious call. One could do the malicious call and not responsibly moderate.
Yes.
These are not. They don't entail each other.
Yeah,
right? They're separate.
Okay.
So when I say there is a risk, yet they're not culpable for the violation of the ethical obligation, what I'm telling you is they're perhaps culpable for something else. Failure to responsibly moderate. But human beings and you and I see the culpability of that conduct as a lot less significant than the one person who intentionally, maliciously violates this obligation on the CPS front.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
like
that's what I'm talking about.
The person who made the decision to make that call, that is the much bigger violation, in my opinion. Like that person committed something that is more immoral than being negligent. But that's not the same thing. That's not the same thing as saying that Denims has 0% culpability. Because if you acknowledge that creators wield influence, and if by not setting an example, they increase the risk of someone in their audience doing something, then they...
Yes. Yep. Cats.
Of course, necessarily have contributed to that person.
They don't necessarily do that. Just merely. So if
I can't wait for the next drama. I can't wait for the next drama when Hutch just disappoints me all over again. And Hutch makes me happy, and then he's gonna make me sad. Okay.
I increased it. So I'll give you an example. All right. So this should be very intuitive. Someone says to this is an unfortunate example. Sometimes we have to do these.
Keep your eyes on the Live and Learn episode. Next one. It's like every Monday though, right?
Someone says to their daughter, their child, hey, go out into the bad part of town. I think you'll be okay if you go to the bad part of town or something, negligent parental advice. Fair?
This is a very good analogy, by the way.
I'm glad that you are going.
That's where my mind was going too, by the way. Sorry.
Okay. Someone does something horrible to this person. They murder her. And someone says, Mr. Father, sir, you are culpable for the murder. Do you agree?
Father.
Partly, yeah.
I think that is insane.
If a father told his daughter, I want you to go to the bad part of town where people get raped and killed, and then the daughter gets raped and killed, and you don't think the father would have any culpability?
Ethical culpability for the murder. All right, not because they
What? Excuse me?
contributed to a risk, for the murder. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Are you doing all right? No, I'm not doing all right. This is crazy.
I understand that the father in this situation didn't literally murder the daughter, but people would rightfully ostracize that father and judge him.
Say, yes. What they would say is, you're culpable for imperiling perhaps your daughter with bad advice. But they wouldn't say that you share culpability in the murder.
Not legal culpability.
No, ethical culpability in the murder, okay?
But the murder...
Exposing oneself... Oh, okay,
hold on, but the murder in this situation, right, would not have happened if the father didn't give that horrible advice, right?
I understand that they're a but-for cause. Now, you have, just to be clear here, I understand in the example I just provided that the father is a but-for cause. You haven't even shown in any respect that she is a but-for cause for the CPS call. You haven't even started. Yeah, I just want to be clear.
I'm not making that claim.
No. I just want to make clear to the audience that you haven't even started.
I'm not making that claim.
Wait. I just want to make sure that the audience understands, right? So I'm just going to make sure the audience understands, right? This is not for you, audience. No one has even started to make the claim that Denims, Kaceytron, or Frogan are but-for causes for the CPS call. Not even started. So an example, yes, for sure. The father is a but-for cause for the death of his daughter. We don't say in the typical course of analysis that the father is partly culpable for the murder of his daughter. What we say is he's responsible in negligence in parenting. He is...
Okay, all right. Are you willing to concede that at the very least? Meet in the middle? Are you willing to concede that at the very least, that Denims is negligent for letting her own fucking dialogue, I guess, get to the point where somebody else is calling CPS? What is this, like, mental retardation cope, right? Like what are you doing here anymore? Like, what's the point of having any of this discussion anymore? What's the point? All right, I don't know what you're talking about.
Culpable for creating an environment where that type of thing could occur. What he's not culpable for is the malicious and unlawful killing of his daughter. Agreed? Yes or no?
Ethically, I do think he's culpable in this spot. I totally disagree. Okay. I mean, there's a different,
I don't agree.
Well, there's a different scenario that we could use, right? Like something more direct. Like, what about firearm storage, right? Like, let's say your parent has a firearm.
Well, okay. I disagree with Hutch here. Okay, I think that obviously, I think that obviously, the rapist murderer has more culpability than the father, but the father is next in line for culpability, right? The father is next in line because he knows that that something bad was gonna happen to her, but he did it anyway, right? That's kind of a easy, oh, well, it seems as though you just want to kill your daughter. That's it. You want to get rid of your daughter. That's why you send her into the bad part of town. You're doing it on purpose, right? Like, it just, that seems to be the obvious part to me, right? Foodshops, yes or no? No. I don't know what question.
And they don't properly store it. And then a kid finds a firearm and starts using it like a toy, accidentally kills himself. Is the parent culpable?
I think that culpable for negligence and for creating an unjustifiable and substantial risk.
And you don't think that a father telling his daughter to go to a part of town where people are raped and killed would be a similar kind of logic?
The same logic applies in the course of the parenting advice. What he's not culpable for is the murder. Do you understand the distinction there?
No.
The murder.
I don't understand how these things are different.
Okay. So do you understand how society views death in the abstract, accidents in the abstract, the causing of death of someone else as generally bad, but they view murder as something horrific? Do you understand that distinction?
Yes.
Someone dying, for example, of natural causes.
Yes.
Murder. Okay.
Yes.
So there are instances in which people can have culpability for the death of somebody, no doubt. Have culpability, and usually when we apply culpability.
Oh, no, just for the record, okay? I don't think Hutch should die on this hill. I think Hutch has to be careful here, and say that of course the person who committed the murder is of course worse than the father, right? I don't think he should die on this hill. I don't think he should die on this hill, okay? Just for the record, just to be very, very, very clear, okay? Yeah, okay. The fact that I don't even know whether or not Hutch is gonna die on this hill or not, like, is what scares me, okay? He's got to be careful here, okay? He cannot die on this hill, all right? In my opinion, and it's the easiest thing to concede ever, is that it's so obvious it's the father the father is less culpable than the person who directly killed her, right? That's so obvious to me. So obvious to me. But whatever. Okay. Yeah.
And this is another case that this totally fails on. Only when you're
Hutch has broken my heart. Yeah, yes. Hutch has broken my heart. He has. Okay, he's a heartbreaker. What can I say?
Failing to adhere to a substantial and unjustifiable risk. Okay, sometimes there are justifiable risks. Sometimes it's not a substantial risk.
Okay?
Let's say, for example,
Hutch hurts me.
you tell your kid to go out into the good part of town, but for you telling her to go to the good part of town where she would be safe, it happened to be that the killer was there in the good part of town. You're a but-for cause there, but you haven't
I understand.
reached some. Okay,
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
So just because you share potentially some culpability in the death of somebody, in the case in which you've done something unjustifiable and you're substantially increasing risk, right? Not just moderate increase risk, substantial increase in risk, right? You tell your daughter to go drive a car down to the fucking supermarket. Now you're increasing risk, but it's not substantial and it's not unjustifiable. So, but in the case in which you are doing those things, I'm going to finish. Let me finish. I know I'm worried. You're culpable for increasing the risk. You're not culpable for murder. That's the difference, okay?
You're culpable, I think, partly culpable for your daughter dying.
But again, I don't see why this matters, right? Okay, so you're just basically saying Denims is responsible to some degree at the very least, right? That's literally what we've been trying to convince you this entire fucking time. That's what we've been trying to tell you this entire fucking time, is that she is to some degree responsible. That's the entire fucking argument, moron.
You're not, maybe, like, we're quibbling about the words here, right? But like,
here's the distinction, Hutch. Hold
on, I almost had something there. Hold on, you figured out where I was going there, right? So like, Denims, what you're saying is like literally not culpable for like the act of calling CPS, but if we're using this analog,
right?
She could be culpable for the fact that CPS was called.
Okay, so she could be culpable for the increasing the risk on that and the fact that it was called. Here's the problem: you haven't even begun to make the empirical case for that, and that's not. The reason that people are mad is the malicious aspect of it, the incriminating conduct, the call to CPS, not the fact that you've increased the risk minimally.
Wait, hold on.
That there's a potential risk, right?
Hold on. Wait, hold on.
Oh my God, I really am trying to explain.
Well, you're filibustering, bro, every time. Like,
I'm not.
Yeah, you are. Like, so are you telling me right now that there is a 0% chance that someone in Denim's audience called CPS?
No, I'm not saying that.
Oh my God. No. Oh my God. No, I don't understand. I can't do this anymore. Okay, no, I have to go through it. No. This is my task.
So she could.
Wait, did you understand? So when you said could, you're going to do what's possible.
So stop. So she could be partly culpable for CPS having been called.
No, not in my opinion. No, unless by what you mean.
You just said it was not 0% though.
Culpability does not totally turn on whether or not someone happens to emerge from a particular causal pathway in which they come from the community. Culpability relates to someone's actions at the time that they're taken, and whether right at the time that she takes these actions, that's the time at which we analyze whether she did a bad thing. Correct?
Of course.
Yes or no?
Of course. Okay.
So of course. At the time she takes the action, yes or no? That's the point at which you have to analyze the culpability of her conduct. At the time she says that, is there a significant chance in your mind?
No, it's not significant. No, don't add that word. Problem. I didn't say that.
So when all you say is there a chance?
Yeah.
That's trivially fucking true.
It's
There's
not
a chance someone interprets your words.
No.
The people are fucking crazy. What do you mean?
It's not trivial because
chance is logical chance. That's crazy.
It's not trivial because we can't know. And so in the absence of certainty. Now, if Ethan knew for sure whose audience that person came from, and it did come from one of their audience, okay, like surely you would agree, like the fact that that CPS was called like within a week of that stream, and she wasn't the only one watching that, so it came from that space of the internet. Would anybody even deny that? Like,
is there a chance that it came from? Is there a chance it came from your community, Hutch?
Sure. Yeah,
so
sure.
You're just as culpable Denims on it?
Do you think that?
Oh my God.
Just sent my daughter to the bad part of town LMFAO.
True. I hope that Pisco never has kids. Holy shit. Thank you, Megu, for the 5 Australian. I mean this seriously, okay? I like, if this is the way that Pisco thinks, I hope he never has kids ever. Ever. Okay? Ever. Okay, I mean this with all sincerity, okay? Sincerity. I don't like this way that he thinks.
The chances are anywhere close to the idea that it came from one of their audiences?
I don't know. I mean, do you have an intuition for that?
Okay.
My intuition
I have an intuition, yeah. I don't think it came from my audience.
My intuition is that, like, you know, it's probably more likely on the margin that it comes from one of these particular communities.
Yeah.
The point is, the mere chance that it comes from a particular community isn't enough for you to say that there's culpability.
No,
so you acknowledging, hang on a second, you acknowledging that there's a distinction between the risk factor with respect to you versus Denims is you acknowledging that.
You mean Pisco's bad faith after the debate, yes or no? I've always thought that he was bad faith. I thought he was bad faith before the debate even started, but you weren't listening. I explained why I thought Pisco was bad faith.
Significance of risk matters. And that's why you can't ignore significance of risk. When you say, I don't want to talk about significance of risk, well, then you're just not playing the same game, because by your lights, if significance of the risk doesn't matter, you and I are both culpable, because it's possible, I guess, it's something we said triggered some fucking crazy person. So you need to talk about significant risk if you even want to get close to culpability.
I just want to get, like, because I feel like it's been 2 hours now about, like, we're trying to get what we're ultimately trying to get at was, you know, was Ethan justified in being furious with these creators collectively? Like, that's the point that I'm trying to get at. That's like what this conversation is all about for me. I'm trying to, because hold on. Because we're trying to unpack, like, whether or not Ethan's actions were justified or they fit what happened. This is, like, basically what we're trying to get at here. And in a situation like this, where you can't know and you'll never know, there's no way, unless the person came forward and admitted it and said whose community they came from, you just can't know. And so if you're in Ethan's shoes and you see a pool of, I'll make it up, like a dozen creators, and they're all making light of the situation, tacitly encouraging it, justifying it, making jokes about it, but you can't know which one specifically it came from. The point is, it could have been like any of them, plausibly. It could have been any of their audiences. And so in that moment, I understand being angry with, like, everybody. At the very least, I mean, surely you.
But you understand? You mean, like, you can understand his human emotion?
I would understand. No. Beyond an emotion, I can understand in that moment wanting accountability, wanting to impose consequences for that violation done to me.
The question, Hutch, isn't whether you understand the feeling or wanting it. The question is it right to do? Is it right to file lawsuits in this context, or to do whatever act that we haven't even breached yet and talked about, if you're not sure whether a particular person is culpable for the action, or is either, for example, intentional about what they're doing, or significantly increasing risk, right? Would you ever say that it would be justified to do something like otherwise bad or malicious towards an individual who doesn't have evidence that they intentionally increased risk or try to do it, or B, no evidence that the risk that they imposed was significant? No, you wouldn't. You have to examine the quantum of risk here. It's impossible to ignore it.
I think we evaluate responsibility just way differently. I think this is an irreconcilable difference of opinion here.
I don't agree. So just to be clear, is it your position today that Denims significantly increased the risk that someone called TPS?
Yes.
In virtue of what?
In virtue of why are you asking me this question?
In virtue of what?
It's the three factors. It's the three factors. I'll say them again, though. Do you want me to say them again? I already said this. It's the three factors.
Yeah, so what's the empirical case there?
Number one, she platformed the Bad Empanada video and co-signed his claims. Co-signed onto them and expressed very, in my opinion, explicitly that she agreed with the claims. She then said that Ethan's kids might die, and she saw people in her chat making a call to action to, like, somebody needs to call CPS, and she refused to moderate. That to me,
do you have any evidence that she saw those? Do you have any evidence that she saw those messages? Do you have evidence that she saw those messages? Yes or no?
No. We'll say no.
So you can't know that she was refusing to moderate responsibly, right?
She constantly stares at chat. It's like a meme with her.
Oh my God, you can't make a best guess. You can't make a best guess anymore. You can't do that. You just simply cannot make a best guess. Is that really not possible here? I can't believe it. I actually can't believe it.
It's constantly stares at chat.
You just said on your
do you think it's plausible?
I'm sad.
Do you think it's plausible that she wasn't looking at chat at all? Had no idea what was going on?
If by plausible you think that it's reasonably likely, yes. I mean, I don't look at chat.
Reasonably likely? No, come on.
But based on, in virtue of what? You know that she, like, steadfastly, intentionally refused to moderate. Are you telling me that you see every one of your chat
Have you watched
messages?
a lot of her content?
No, I haven't fucking watched it.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Why are you defending people that you haven't even watched? Oh my God, dude. Why? Stop. This needs to stop right now, okay? I don't know if I can do this. I genuinely don't know whether or not I can, I don't understand. I don't get it.
Wait a second.
I don't understand.
This kind of blows my mind. I've watched a lot of Denims content. You're saying you haven't watched a lot of her, like, at all? Like, at all?
No, I haven't watched a lot of Denims content.
Why are you speaking so confidently on this then? Like, I don't understand. Why are you giving your opinion about, like, well, it doesn't seem likely to me if you don't know anything about her content?
No, so there usually is a requirement, right? If you're going to make a case that she intentionally, it's your claim, isn't it? That she intentionally refused to moderate those calls to CPS. Isn't it your burden to show that? Is it your burden?
I'm just a little lost. Hold on. I'm just trying to process what I'm experiencing with you right now.
I mean, you can make all these appeals, so, like,
don't you think it would help you in these conversations to spend some time like familiarizing yourself with these people, their character, their content?
Is it your burden?
You don't think that's relevant to the analysis?
So if you make a claim,
constantly
is it your burden?
stares at chat and interacts with chat.
Do you constantly stare at chat? Do you constantly stare at chat and respond to it?
Yes.
Do you read everything that the chat says?
Not all the time. No. Okay.
So in virtue of the fact that someone tends to,
if I'm having a conversation with you, if I'm having a conversation with you.
Well, there can't be a range of things. To Pisco, everything is black or white. Everything is just simply so easy to him as the answer. Can there be nuance and issues? Can there ever be any kind of... Man.
But if it's just me and chat, and I'm watching a video, I'm constantly watching chat.
Okay, so, but the mere fact that someone tends to look at chat, don't you have an additional burden to show that they actually disregarded, this risk?
So
Today is a dark day.
Your whole thing here is like maybe she didn't see it in chat? That's what you're saying?
Hutch, I asked you a question. Is it your claim or not? And do you have the burden? That's the question.
I'm not interested in this line with you. I'm not interested in this line of questioning. I find it preposterous. Because you're trying to weasel out of, like, you don't have a burden. I don't think you should have such confident opinions when you don't know anything about these creators. That's my point.
Wait, who made the claim? Did you make the claim that she disregarded and intentionally didn't moderate, or did I make that claim?
Why wouldn't you familiarize yourself with her? Out of curiosity.
So between us, who made the affirmative claim?
No, I want to move past this. I want to move past like the other thing.
Hutch, I'm not going to move past it because you're making a claim and saying that I'm doing something weird by not watching all of Denim's.
Because you've said it before, though. You've said it before. Like, you made this conversation about.
Simple question.
You made this conversation about.
As between us,
I'm not going to go down this road with you. I'm not.
I'm not going to.
You made this conversation about, like, whether or not his actions were justified or appropriate, like an appropriate response to the stuff that they did. You'll say that in one breath, but then you'll also say that you don't really know much about the creators or what they did. It's like, why wouldn't you take the time to, like, look into that first, though? I don't understand.
So this is an inartful thing that you're doing. The mere fact that I haven't watched all of Denim's content.
But it's important, though.
Wait, hang on. The mere fact that I haven't, so I'm just going to address what you just said. I am going to go back to my line, so you haven't distracted me from that. The mere fact that I haven't watched all of Denim's content, or all of Kaceytron's content, or all of Frogan's content, that is not any contradiction between me and my opinions thus far. Can you identify a contradiction or some kind of thing that doesn't?
Pisco, listen to me. You are cooked. You are cooked. Okay? Hutch was never the one. Hutch is never the one that defeated you. You defeated yourself. You defeated yourself. Pisco, listen. You basically ninjutsu'd yourself into defeating yourself. This is what has happened. This is what has just went down, okay? You destroyed yourself, okay? This is not okay. You're a fallen angel. You are a fallen angel. You were once one of our brightest, and now you have become the enemy. You were not always like this. You were not always like this. It's cooked. It's over. It's done.
Makes sense on that view.
Well, you seemed taken off guard when you looked at the...
Can you not?
Like, you got taken off guard when you were watching.
You just made an additional claim. You just made an additional claim. You said it was weird.
Generally speaking, though, you don't think it would... Generally speaking, though, you don't think it would behoove you to, like, familiarize yourself with these creators and what they said and did during that time. You seem to have not, like, looked into it very much. But you also have these strong opinions about Ethan and the severity of, like, what he did compared with what he was responding to.
For the scope of my claims, I believe I've done appropriate research for the scope of my claims. I haven't made broader claims that would require me to do the kind of research that you're talking about.
But are you not claiming...
So Hutch. I just answered all your concerns.
Are you not claiming that he is taking it too far?
Hutch. I just answered your claims.
Are you not claiming that he's taking it too far?
I just answered your concerns. Did you make a claim about Denim's intent or not?
Yes. I think to any reasonable person, who is familiar with this situation and familiar with her, I think any reasonable person would come to the conclusion that she did see what was going on in her chat.
So is it? Yes. So is it your burden to demonstrate that
beyond a what is it?
To a reasonable certainty. To a reasonable certainty.
I'm not here to try to convict in front of a jury. I'm just saying a reasonable person would come to the conclusion that she was watching her chat and she saw what they were saying. And her rhetoric here. I'll give you something to support the claim. I'll give you something to support the claim. Okay.
Hutch, no, Hutch. So first, I want to establish it is your burden. You agree it's your burden to demonstrate your claim, correct?
Who cares?
Is it your burden or not?
I'm tired. I'm tired.
Dude,
I'm actually physically tired right now.
This would go by a lot faster if you just acknowledge the obvious.
No, but you're trying to do these lawyer tricks. You're tricking me. You're trying to trick me right now. Yeah, you are. Any reasonable person thinks that she was looking at her chat and saw anybody. Okay, you can say, well, was it 100%? No, I don't know. 100%.
Are you saying that you assume it? Are you assuming it?
I think it's a safe assumption. Yes.
Are you? So an assumption, in other words, is something that you don't justify. Fair?
I could be wrong.
Oh my God. This is why I feel like a parent. I feel like a 26-year-old parent in a space full of adult children. I do. I unironically do. Okay, I do. All right. The fact that someone like Pisco or J-Stelk or Queeman has to take the opposite position of Destiny's position in every single piece of discourse comes off as a teenager wanting to go, I'm not like the others. I'm not like the other girls. I'm not like the other boys. I'm in my rebellious phase from my dad. Unironically, this is teenager behavior, okay? The fact that you would take the opposite position or take a contrarian position to people because you have no real principles, you just have your ego. You have not grown past your teenager phase. You have never graduated high school. You're a high school dropout. Okay? This is sad. All right? This space is just full of weirdos, dumb people, retards, and morons. Okay? There is not a single smart person to be found in this space for 1,000,000 miles. None. Where are they? I don't see them. Crazy. Insane. I don't know. Maybe I'm going crazy. Maybe I'm in here with the asylum with the rest of them.
Okay, but sure. You made a claim. So here's the problem, right? If you make a claim about a particular intent, and this is, by the way, not too dissimilar to what you say of me, right? Like, don't you say the same thing to me?
You watch something else? No, we're finishing this. How much more? 1.5 hours. We can't finish this. We'll stop at some point, okay?
You're like, you can't say you know Ethan's intent. You have to prove that. Like, and now when I come back with you and say, hey, listen, when you're trying to speak about Denim's intent, don't you need to show that? You're like, I don't want to answer that question. You made me tired. I mean, what the fuck?
Okay, do you think it's plausible that she didn't see anything in her chat?
By possible, do you mean logically
plausible? Do you think it's plausible that she didn't see any of that?
Yeah, so I think plausible is like, is there a decent chance she didn't see it? I think it's decent.
Okay.
Because guess what? Okay. The reason I have that intuition is because both you and I agree that we don't see the entirety of our chats. Okay. And you would agree, by the way, between you and I, we don't see the vast majority of chats that come on our chat, correct?
I think I see most of the chat. It's only when I'm having conversations like now, where I'm like really invested in what I'm watching. But at this point in my career, back when I was playing video games, fuck no, I barely looked at chat. It wasn't that often. These days, I constantly look at both chats. And so does she, by the way. That's her whole thing. She's constantly interacting with chat. That's her pattern. That's what I know about her as a creator. Wait, hang on. I'm trying to support the claim, okay? Like, I know this about her as a creator, is that she is constantly interacting with her chat. Like, constantly. Like they are a big part of their content. Like some creators, like I don't know if Destiny necessarily does it in the same way. Like he interacts with chat, but it's like he's off doing his own thing. He's kind of doing his own react or whatever. Like not everybody works that way. She's constantly
trying to make a concerted effort to look at my chat, and I miss like 50+% of everything that comes up there.
You say it's plausible she missed it. Okay. But
but even putting that aside, even if I granted it, Hutch, even if I granted that she bears culpability for failure to mitigate these kinds of risks, failure to moderate, it just doesn't extend to the act itself. That kind of thing, we don't have that normative intuition that a failure to adjust for risk, that this is a substantial risk, that based on this content someone's going to call CPS. You couldn't justify that, man. You couldn't justify that there's a substantial risk that given that statement that someone as a result of that is the natural and probable consequence of that is that someone calls CPS. It just isn't tailored to it.
I can easily justify putting myself in Ethan's shoes and looking at the whole space that dogpiled and joked about it and egged it on and justified it. I can easily justify in that moment feeling like they all share culpability for contributing to that, to their collective audience's culture of like,
but that's a separate thing
unrivaled
from
levels
the
of
thing
like,
itself.
we're beyond hostility at that point. It was one of the most like vicious
Hutch, they do that to
pylons
you.
I've ever seen in my entire
Hutch,
career, going back nearly 2 decades.
The lefties do that to you.
Not like, listen, I've been on the receiving end of some vicious shit, and nothing came close to what the Kleins went through. I mean, do you acknowledge that do you acknowledge that the act of like, hold on, let me ask you a question.
I've already done that. Yeah, CPS is bad. That's why I said.
Now I got a different question.
Why are you talking about it? And yes, I did say
all right,
that.
I have a different question. What do you think is worse? Like, what do you think is the more significant action? The lawsuits or the CPS?
Calling CPS vindictively and maliciously.
Okay.
But that's not the question. The question isn't.
It is though.
Between these. No, it's fucking not. You need to connect the creators to the culpable actions, and even if, by the way,
they're all culpable in my mind,
including yourself, right? Because there's a chance it came from your community.
No, listen, like for egging it on, for making light of it, and for joking about it, they're all culpable. They fostered that community. Culpable. Yeah.
So I'm so pleased that I'll see this. You applying the standard to liberals. You apply the standard to all sorts of creators who have, let's just put it modestly, less than stellar reputations and actions when it comes to moderation of their communities. Let's just to put it mildly. I mean, like
I've called those people out. I've called them out.
That they're culpable. So if someone crazy does something to Pisco because they say that he's, whatever they say, you're going to be like, oh, all these people who are making false claims and piling on Pisco, these people have collective responsibility for the murder of Pisco. You would never say that.
Surely you would agree that when we're talking about like politicians, that kind of culpability, that would be spread out like amongst hundreds of thousands of creators and people with platforms and influence. It's a little bit different in this situation when we're talking about
the Republicans' argument about Charlie Kirk, that after the fact, the Democrats are fostering communities where they're doing things that with their natural consequence is it causes crazy people to. So I just want you to know this entire thing. I've been trying to show you that the standard you're applying is the conservative standard on Charlie Kirk.
No,
and you just said it perfectly. Yes, it's scattered across. That's the Republicans' theory for why Democrats deserve culpability for all these crazy lunatics doing crazy shit.
If you think,
described it, man.
If you think I'm being inconsistent, you should just ask my chat. What was I saying about people that were making jokes about Charlie Kirk?
You were not saying they're culpable for murder. You were not saying that.
No. What I was saying was...
You weren't saying that, right? You weren't saying that, right?
No.
Foodshops, how does Steven create these retards from Hassan to Vash now to Pisco? Is because everyone is so sensitive about not wanting to be Destiny to the point where they don't realize why they follow Destiny in the first place. After they leave Destiny, they want so much, they want nothing but to separate away from Destiny to the point where they betray themselves. They betray who they were before they left Destiny because they never want to be perceived as somebody who still talks like Destiny, takes upon Destiny's views, takes upon Destiny's mannerisms. They're very sensitive to that. They're insecure about that, and honestly, rightfully so. Because if you've ever seen any of the tier 5 DGG subs, or anybody who says DGL, after they leave from a call-in, you would understand.
Well, that's not what I was, but like, again, this is not analogous at all. But what I was telling my chat, like that day, the day after, like I didn't find any of the jokes funny. Like I was telling people that this was a time for everybody to.
I don't agree with the jokes.
Right. No, but that's me being consistent, though. I'm saying like we all have a.
Not calling them culpable.
No,
you're not.
No, but like you would be culpable in a much more abstract sense of contributing to that kind of culture.
And the only reason that I'm picking on Destiny here is simply because he has the most like I don't know spicy takes.
I called him out.
No,
I told him.
So here's the question. I'm not saying did you call him out or not. Don't confuse the issues, Hutch. And I'm not going to get confused.
After you divorce away from Destiny, the best thing you can do is to be self-aware and not stray too far from the light, and to understand that there are both good points that Destiny makes, and at the same time, you don't have to adopt his points, but you should adopt his way of thinking, and that is probably the most important part. And in addition, the most parasocial orbiters, the most parasocial fans, become the most heinous, the most hated, the most evil of anti-fans. Why? It's because they never viewed him like a normal person. They viewed him as a godlike debater figure put on a pedestal, out of reach, the king of kings, okay? But then when it all comes crashing down and they see them and they see Steven in his worst light, the parasociality turns back around, okay?
By it. So just be clear. Is Destiny culpable for the murder of Charlie Kirk because he joked about it afterward in ways that you find reprehensible? Is he culpable for the murder?
No, of course not.
Okay, so the mere fact that you're part of a
not.
collective
No.
that jokes about it after the fact, makes light of the murder, does some kind of funny memes about it, that is not enough to satisfy culpability on this shit.
No, but even what I'm not talking about, like, so there's culpability for like a shared responsibility for fostering communities where this sort of behavior is encouraged and celebrated and joked about. Like, that's one thing. And then there's like culpability for the act itself. And then there's like joking about it after the fact.
Point, Hutch.
And like all
That's
of these things.
Point,
But, no,
Hutch.
but I'm saying all of these things are relevant consideration when we evaluate. Was Ethan justified in taking extreme actions?
I'm gonna speed this up if we want to finish this.
Totally agree, but here's the problem, though. Here's the problem. The culpability for failure to moderate, the culpability for failure to making light of stuff, right? And when you shouldn't do it, it's being conflated with the malicious act of the call itself. That's the sneaky part. That's the part that doesn't.
But I'm not complaining.
Whether you are or not, people are, and they're saying, well, and you almost did. I actually think you did it here by saying, well, don't you acknowledge by failure to moderate, you acknowledge that there's some culpability there, therefore there's culpability for the actual act. No, we cannot conflate these. We really can't.
I don't. I'm not conflating it. I feel like you're trying to do this thing where you're conflating it to try to like make the point that well, it's absurd to say that they're responsible because ultimately it's up to the person that did it. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like if you are irresponsible in your lack of moderation, in your own words, increase the risk of someone in your audience doing something like that.
You're responsible for that. But if that conduct doesn't rise to a certain level of significance, it's negligible, right? So you need to make it's not enough to say you increase the risk. You will accept this, Hutch. It's not enough.
It's not trivial. None of this is trivial. I don't think any of them have clean hands in this situation.
That's not my point. You would agree, wouldn't you, that raising the risk minorly,
oh my god,
isn't culpable conduct, right?
For the act itself, literally according to your standard, no. But you have contributed, in my opinion.
I'm not asking on my view. On your view, if you raise the risk just a tiny little bit, that's not culpable conduct, is it?
Not necessarily, no. But like, here's the thing, though. Like, yes. Yeah, I can smell it.
Is something okay?
No, they painted. There was a pipe that burst, and so they had to fix a bunch of shit and paint a bunch of shit.
Your governor is a smart cookie. He might not be trustworthy, but I like him after that interview. That's right. I'm just saying, you know.
I've liked him for a while.
Smart.
Yeah, he is smart. He's very sharp. He's fucking super sharp.
But I know that was like that interview was Democrat porn, so I just wanted to.
Oh yeah, I was living out for sure.
Hutch, you're my boy. I'm not trying to meme on you or like insult you or anything, but it really like in order to
don't worry about.
Okay, reaffirm the friendship. Okay.
I mean.
Okay, I'm not taking it personally. I really want to emphasize that it's not enough to show some trivial risk, some insignificant risk. If you want to demonstrate that there's culpability in the context of increasing risk, in this context, maybe I would grant that there's some nominal duty to impose these kinds of standards of moderation on your own community. Absolutely. But to race for culpability with respect to risk of the underlying act, you're going to have to show some significant risk increase there. And I don't think that you even started to make that case for any of the creators. Like Kaceytron? What the fuck? What is the evidence that Kaceytron contributed to this?
She was justifying it and joking about it just the same. They were all doing
this. After the fact. On no different terms than someone after the fact joking about Charlie Kirk's assassination. But you would not say, wow, you've contributed to his death. You would say, this is in bad taste, this looks bad, this is independently a wrong thing to do.
It's not just this culpability. No, but it's not just a CPS call. Like if you as a creator and you have a platform and you're making jokes about the CPS call or whatever, you are contributing directly to a culture that is being fostered in that community of celebrating something that I find to be like really reprehensible, abhorrent, disgusting behavior. And anybody in Ethan's position would have been furious. Like, do you understand that? Like, even if we found out, for example, even if we could say for sure that person came from Bad Empanada's community specifically, I would still in my mind, I would still in my mind think and say that they're all culpable because they're all contributing in their own ways. And it's like, obviously we're getting very abstract here, but that's where my mind goes with it. Like it could have been any of them, right? Like it could have been any of them.
So people calling Charlie Kirk a fascist, saying
I don't care. No, Charlie Kirk was a national figure who had way more. But like, if you're going to ask me in a broad sense,
Ethan Klein is not a national figure. Like
Charlie Kirk, what are we talking about here? No, of course not.
Making a distinction. Like, okay, Charlie, yeah, of course we are. True. I mean, maybe in our bubble, but I don't know that Ethan Klein is less or more popular than Charlie Kirk or more well known. They're comparable, aren't they?
Like, let me just ask you, like, okay, so you have family, I assume. So like, let's say like a deranged MAGA person who followed you. There was a bunch of smaller creators, or bigger creators, right? Like, and they all started like memeing about how one of your family members was like abusing their kids, and then CPS showed up at the house, right? Like, and are you telling me you wouldn't be like almost equally pissed at like everybody who was possibly indirectly responsible for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I would be pissed at people who were making light of it. If I had evidence that they were encouraging it, if I felt that they were like spreading lies that someone could take.
Wait, what? Okay, wait, what? That's the entire point, though. That's the entire point. Pisco, Pisco, don't say that this is different. Pisco, don't say that this is different. Please, Pisco, don't say that this is different. It's not different. Okay, that's the entire point. Is that you understand it's not after the fact, it's that it is. Oh my god, it's all part of the same anti-fan community, bro. It's all the same. It's part of the same thing. They do this. You need to stop pretending that they're separate figures. They move as one. They fall in line, Pisco.
That way, that's a different. You keep trying to find different ways to ask the same question, which is could there be independent obligations? Okay, I'm trying to explain. Like you're finding different ways to ask it, but fundamentally, you haven't crossed a divide, which is the mere increase of a risk in violation of some ethical obligation to moderate or to be wise with your words or not say stupid shit that someone could take a certain way. That does not translate to culpability for the malicious vindictive acts, and we cannot conflate those levels of responsibility and culpability. And what's being used to justify these lawsuits, again, they put aside the issue of whether it's to protect the react community, which is so bizarre and fucked up and not true. But even putting that aside, the argument you get is that shit doesn't even matter. Like fuck that analysis piece. Who cares about it? Because these people are just so awful because they're culpable for the CPS call. That's what I'm hearing, and I just think that is just totally wrong-headed analysis.
I think they did awful. I think they did an awful thing. I think all of them contributed to a really awful thing, and they all mocked it and trivialized it. I think it was disgusting.
Was it disgusting for Destiny to ridicule Charlie Kirk's death?
I think so, yeah. I said so at the time. Yeah, I said it was disgusting. I had DGG in my audience that were pushing back because I don't think this is funny. I think it's a funny moment right now. I think he's culpable
for, if anything.
I think he's culpable for, in that moment, for contributing to a culture of political violence through his rhetoric.
Isn't that the Republican argument?
No, the Republican argument would be like Destiny himself is like directly responsible because of this, that, or the other thing. But we're getting into more abstract kind of ideas, right?
Then that's the scope of my claim with respect to Denims. You can't conflate the moral ethical obligation with respect to the substantive.
I didn't though, but I still think what they did was disgusting. I think it was disgusting. I think it was so dehumanizing. I think it was antisocial, and I think all of those creators abused the influence that they had. They're all like drunk with power in their own like way. And I think they knew that they had that power. They know they had that influence, and they all knowingly used it, knowing full well that the risk would go up of something like this happening. They did it anyways.
Let's deal with Kaceytron. What act? So the vindictiveness or the aggression or the anger at Kaceytron is justified because
they all did the same thing. Is my point. They all justified the CPS claims, joked about it, continued to say that it was justified. Like they all.
What did Kaceytron say about it? You know?
I'd have to pull up the videos. It's been a minute, but all of them did that. Is the
you
point.
don't want me to do what you did to me, right? Because I'm gonna say, what, you don't even know the basic things of what they said, and you haven't done your bare
research.
I know, you can ask my stream. That's annoying, right? That's fucking annoying to do. Like
because I can't remember particulars, but I'm telling you, like you can ask my stream. We've watched plenty of Kaceytron clips. We've watched plenty of videos dissecting what all these various creators said. I smoked a lot of pot for a lot of years, and I can't give you particulars, but I'm telling you, they all joked about it, justified it, continued to justify it. That's the point.
Okay, and given the fact they joked about it, let's say assume that Kaceytron joked about the CPS call. All right, I'm going to assume that for the purposes of the next stage of what we're talking about, that she joked about the CPS call. Therefore, it's justified to, supposing this is the motivation, to sue her on that basis alone.
I think it's justified to want to impose consequences, and the debate would be about like, is this an appropriate consequence? And I've already told you I'm somewhat agnostic on that. Like I'm somewhat conflicted because I'm sympathetic to his desire for like a sense of justice or a sense of like wanting to punish the people who you feel contributed in their own way to your family, like suffering in your own personal suffering. But I'm also sympathetic to like I don't want Denims to be her wages garnished for the rest of her life or
like you wouldn't want them to be financially destitute, right? For laughing.
I mean, I don't wish that on my worst enemy. You know, that's just
and obviously like they shouldn't be beat up for joking about it, right? They shouldn't be beat up.
Excuse me, I do. I only care about myself. I'm not gonna lie.
You shouldn't be banned for it.
I wouldn't condone violence. I mean, I think they should be banned. Like, I think it would be justified for some kind of penalty. I don't know if I've ever advocated that people be permanently banned from Twitch, but the fact that like that crowd, they've gotten away with so much shit that nobody else would get away with, and I think it's pretty obvious at this point that the people.
True. Okay. I'm not here to deny that. That's why I think that the level of research I've done is appropriate for the scope of my claims. Is I'm not making a claim that they haven't or have gotten away with stuff. I'm not making a claim that they're good or bad people. I'm not making a claim that they haven't said shit that by itself is reprehensible or bad. I don't think it's justified to make sort of implications that on the bare thing that Ethan said, even the majority of thing. I think it's disgusting overturn that you would say that, but that's just my own personal taste. I don't think that it's justified to conclude that therefore it's negligence. I don't, and I think that anyone who does, you need more facts to establish negligence in that context. But fact. But just because I think that doesn't mean I think that they're culpable for the underlying thing. And here,
but you said she was
facts about it. What's that?
You said
for. No.
No,
You said not the thing, but for failure to moderate or whatever, the negligence perhaps in that, but not like with respect to the actual CPS call. That's the difference.
I don't know how to make sense of that in my mind. Like she's negligent because she did something that increased the risk of something happening, and then the thing happened. But because she didn't do the exact thing, it's really kind of trivial. Her negligence. I don't know how to make sense of that. That doesn't make any sense to me. I can't reconcile those two things.
There are evidentiary problems on all this, right? So there's an evidentiary problem that the kind of risk by making these kinds of like cute little, guys, whoa, that this increases significantly the risk of someone calling CPS. I don't think that's established, and that any one of those jokes or something, or even intimations that something is wrong. The conclusion, therefore, is that there's a substantial and unjustifiable risk that CPS call will occur. So even just on the empirical case for this being a significant risk, I don't think that the people who are claiming that it's a significant risk have made their case for that. Secondly, to the extent they have any culpability, so far the evidence, I think you agree with this, doesn't show that they intentionally tried to actualize CPS call. Fair?
I don't think so. Right? I could be wrong. There's some clips I've seen.
People should not treat them as though they intended it. Fair?
No, wait, but hang on. Like,
should they treat them? Wait, should they treat them? I'm trying
to go back to answer the question.
I understand. I just want to hear this first. Should people treat them as though they intended the CPS call on current facts?
I think people should treat them as though they explicitly justified it to their audiences.
That's what I'm saying. That they intended for this to occur and they wanted it to occur.
Oh, I don't know. You'd have to ask her, but that's not. I mean, that's not even the most relevant consideration. Like that kind of doesn't matter. Like, was she intending for someone in her audience? She knew she was taking a risk. She knew that she was being. Well, maybe she didn't, but like I think she knew. I think all of them knew that they were. I think they were like dog whistling about it. I think they thought Ethan was evil, and I think that they think that making him suffer was justified. That's what all of their rhetoric and behavior.
Do you think that they should be treated as though they intended for this result to occur?
I think it's understandable for Ethan to view it that way. Let me try to explain.
You can say that I don't know.
Let me try to explain because even if we could specify, okay, the person came from Denim's audience, okay, the fact that it could have been any of them, that's the point. So like even if it came from her, like so that sense of like imposing responsibility in a collective way. That's where that comes from, because it's like it easily could have been any of their audiences.
But the question I'm asking isn't whether you can impose some level of responsibility, because we've already had this discussion, we're going around circles on it. My question is not precisely that. It's should they be treated, and not do you understand whether Ethan could have that view. That's not what I'm asking. I'm not asking on Ethan's view. I'm asking on your view and only your view. Should people treat them as though they intended for this result to occur? Not Ethan's view.
Honestly, to a certain extent, yeah. Honestly, yeah. In virtue of the fact that they continued to justify it after the fact. Like, it already happened the first time, so if you're justifying it after the fact, you're like, actually, I think it was good that CPS got called. Are you not? Wait, hold on.
They wanted it to occur and were intended.
Yes.
To
Yes.
I don't agree.
After the fact, they're saying, actually, it's good that they were called. It was justified. Are they not significantly contributing to the risk of it happening again at that point?
I mean, I don't have to agree with that.
Is it all memes? Are they all joking? Should I not take them at their word, or what?
No, I don't think that mere justification of an act by itself entails that it's significant for the act to reoccur, that you've increased the risk. I think that there's more of a burden than you need.
Oh my god. So even if they admit to the crime, it doesn't matter? Even if they admit to the crime, it doesn't matter? Even if they admit to the crime, it doesn't matter, motherfucker? Really? Really? Even if they admit to the crime, it doesn't matter? Even if they admit to oh my god. Bro, you can't, dude. This isn't real. None of this is real. I'm not living the real world right now. None of this is all a dream, and I have to wake up. I'm in a dream right now.
I don't think that.
To me, that event was like just such a clear case of almost sociopathic levels of harassment. And if you're after the fact saying it was a good thing that it happened, I think all of them. All of them justified it. All of them.
They also said it was good that CPS was called?
Yes.
I haven't seen that. I mean, I've been having these debates for. I even think Ethan backed away from that claim. Didn't he make a video saying he never alleged that Denims was responsible or justified it?
No, what he said was that Denims didn't tell his audience to call CPS. That's what he said.
So what do you take to be the justification that for the CPS call specifically that Denims said? Actually, even like notion of what was said.
We just saw that. Hold on. We just saw the same video. That was before.
That was before.
That's even worse.
But that wasn't her justifying CPS call, right?
Of course it was. What do you mean? Of course it was.
No, it wasn't.
His kids have giardia and they might die.
Is that justification for a CPS call?
Yes.
No, wait, hang on a second.
What do you mean?
The mere fact that a child contracts a disease, an illness, even through a potential like a negligence event, that is not justification for a CPS call.
No.
Justification for a CPS call would be something like this: wow, they're a danger. Like I think that CPS should be called, or someone should talk to the government about this, or this would people need to check in on these kids and like go to the authorities. Those are things that sound like justification for intervention.
She said
Heavenly Father,
very explicitly implied that Ethan's kids might die. That's not a justification called CPS.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. Come on, bro. What are we doing here?
Oh my god. No, what, dude? Oh my god. It can't. No, it can't be. No, come on. I know that you're still in there somewhere. Come on. Oh my god, I can't. I don't know if I can do this anymore. I don't know. I don't know if I can do this anymore. I don't know.
So the mere fact that I'm frustrated with you. Of course, that's why CPS exists, bro. I'm not saying she was right about her analysis of like giardia. Apparently giardia is like very common, but she was telling her audience like that they have this thing and they might die. That's what she said. CPS exists for that.
So if I had that view, you're saying if I had the view that this is dangerous for the child and that they were negligent, that means I'm justifying CPS call?
If you're telling your audience that someone's kids might die because they're being neglected, then yes, that's an obvious. Like assume she was correct, right? Like assume she was correct and they were being neglected and they might die. Is that a justification called CPS?
Yeah, no, I think that someone could use that as part of their justification.
No.
That's different. No.
Is it a justification?
No, you need an additional assumption. You need an additional argument to call CPS. I'll give you an example, right? So I'll give you an example because you're going to agree with this one, right? So if someone says, if you don't vaccinate your kids, it's dangerous to the health of your kids. And look, these guys aren't vaccinating their kids, and it's dangerous to the health of their kids, and they could die if they don't get vaccinated. Look, there's something going on. Is that justification to call CPS? Is that person justifying CPS call?
In their minds and to their audience, yes.
No, the mere fact that you're saying that people are imperiling the lives of their kids is not a justification for calling CPS. And the example I just provided, you would never say if a liberal said like,
you're not understanding my point. You're not understanding my point. You're sailing past my point.
Oh my god!
I'm saying no. The question it's not about whether or not giardia actually represented as a mortal threat to the kid. That's not the point. She was claiming that the kids were going to die because they were being neglected. And so people in her audience.
They're gonna die.
That's what you just watched the same clip, man. You need to watch it again. We watched it twice now.
Okay,
she said kids can die from this, bro. That's what she said.
Okay, so this is the context in which I'm giving you. I'm trying to apply your standard to a case to see if you're consistent. This is called testing you. It's an internal critique. I'm trying to see if you're being consistent, right? So if a liberal is watching.
Oh, Pisco, dude, Pisco is like no, I can't. No, this This feels like seeing someone die.
A video of some conservators say, I didn't get my kids are totally unjabbed and on everything. I didn't give them the jab of anything. I don't give them on COVID. Let me finish the question, Hutch. On COVID, I didn't give them the jab on MMR. I didn't give them this on anything. And frankly, I think the health results speak for themselves. And they're fine. And a liberal commentator says, this is very dangerous. They could die of these various different illnesses. This is so negligent. Is that yes or no them justifying calling CPS?
In their minds, yes. Yes. Or it could justify some significant intervention.
So if someone calls CPS in virtue of that statement, would you apply culpability to the person who said,
this is perfect. This is like the perfect. No, this is the perfect. Okay, say what you want to say, and then let me say what I want to say. Okay. So let's say I'm like a super pro-vax like YouTuber streamer guy, and like my content is like focused on like Pfizer being fucking awesome and all the vaccines being so great. And let's say I cultivate an audience of like thousands of people, and my whole thing is that like MAGA parents are putting their kids at risk for that they might kill their kids because they might get COVID and they might die. And then I said like, and then I implied that like their kids might die. And then somebody in my audience or shortly after this happened like called the authorities and tried to have government intervention. Like this is a plausible. Would I be partly responsible for that?
Afterwards, no, you wouldn't. So if afterwards,
what?
You would not be.
There's no way you think that. I don't think you think that.
I literally do. This is how. So if afterwards someone called CPS on the anti-vaxxer or whatever, and the streamer came and said, guys, why the fuck did you do this? This is wrong. No one would be like, hang on, you justified the call of CPS. You'd be like, no, that's not what I said.
Sure they might. What do you mean?
Who would have the better of the argument? The guy
that doesn't matter. Who cares? The argument doesn't need to be good.
Who has the better of the argument doesn't matter.
She was making a shitty, unscientific claim, as she often does, by the way. She was making a bad claim. It's not true that that the Giardia was as deadly as she was presenting. I think like a quarter of kids in the country at any given time have Giardias or something like that. But that's not what she told her audience. She told her audience that Ethan's kid might die.
The example I'm giving you is one in which the same kind of thing. These kids could die if they don't get vaccinated. You understand the lethality rate for this?
No, there's precedent, but there's legal precedent. Like, right? Like, I think people generally kind of, or they could Google stuff. When is it appropriate to call CPS? If it was true that Ethan was neglecting his kids in the way that they were suggesting, then it would be justified to call CPS, right? That there's a legal precedent for that. Right?
There's an additional inference that you need to make that I would impose on anyone claiming.
Oh my god, I can't. I hope Pisco never, ever, 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 ever has kids. Ever. 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 Ever.
That this person is culpable for that action. That I could say something like this. Like, so I'll just tell you, right?
Well, you didn't answer my question, though.
Wait, sorry. I missed it then. Say again.
If you found out that parents were neglecting their kids to the extent that the kids were literally like playing with dog shit and contracting what is it, a viral disease? Whatever it is?
I don't know, doctor.
Okay. If you knew that parents were let's leave out Giardia. If you knew that there were some parents out there that were neglecting their kids so much that the kids were playing with dog shit just like all throughout the day, would you be justified in calling CPS?
I'm not sure that you would be on those facts alone. In my view,
there's no way you think this. There's no way you think this.
What I'm saying is they're very different things, right? Like that a person making the argument that it would just be justified on those facts. That's different. Like if someone were to give out those facts and ask you the question, is it justified to call CPS? And congratulations, you justified CPS. But there's an additional inference that needs to be made that government intervention in this specific case is warranted. And there could be a ton of contravening factors that would cause someone to say, notwithstanding that it's negligent, notwithstanding that there's a risk of a kid being materially affected in terms of their health, that calling CPS is still not justified given X, Y, Z. There's an additional set of inferences and considerations that any reasonable person is going to think about, especially half these people who don't even think the police should exist and think like everything should be fucking social workers and there should be no coercive force of the state at all. So all I'm saying is you haven't made your case alone by saying they call it justified CPS by stating merely that they felt there was a potential effect on health and their negligence. Even here, it's less of an inference given the fact that she didn't actually say that. She just kind of like,
no. She said that kids will die from that disease. That she agreed that empanada was like she agreed with all that. She said that kids die from that and it's very serious. Like, what if a kid went to school and told his teacher, my parents neglect me all day and I play in dog shit? Would the teacher be legally obligated to call the authorities?
That's different. I think that there could be a duty to report in those circumstances. That's a separate question.
Okay.
That's a separate question from whether the individual who made such claims is themselves justifying CPS to be called. Someone can make that claim. I want to hear you acknowledge this, right? Someone can make that report saying, yeah, I saw them playing dog shit, and then let's say the teacher's a mandatory reporter, call CPS, and then they go there, and the person said, what the fuck? Why did you call CPS? I didn't want you to do that. And there's no contradiction there. Everybody just know.
I don't follow.
Okay, the example is as follows. A kid, or let's say another adult, a fellow adult talks to a teacher and says, Billy, they're letting them play in like this very dangerous backyard. I don't think that it makes sense. I don't know what to do about it. Tell the teacher understands their obligations that they're mandatory report or whatever. And they go and say that. And the teacher comes back and says, I had to take your shit to the higher ups. And then the person who reported says, what the hell? I trusted you. Why did you call that? That was wrong to do. Why'd you do that?
Well, we're talking about a hypothetical kid in this case, right?
Oh my God. The question is there an inconsistency between the person who made that complaint and then being frustrated and upset that CPS was called? Is there an inconsistency? No, there's not, Hutch. No, there's not. Someone could take the view that notwithstanding the risk of the child, that notwithstanding the fact that there's perceived negligence, that the cost and harm of calling CPS is not justified given the circumstances. And you need to make an additional inference before you make the claim that they justified it, unless you're willing to grant the vaccine cases, which I don't even know. Like, are you even trying to distinguish those? How are you even trying to distinguish those?
What I'm getting at is what Denims alleged. She supported these.
Why is there hammering sounds every single time Hutch uses his mic? Oh God! You know what? I'm not gonna question it. Okay, I don't know. Maybe someone's wife is getting
claims. She agreed with the claims and expanded on them. The claim that she was making was that Ethan's kids are being so severely neglected that they're playing in dog poop and contracting serious diseases that can kill them.
Right. Those are facts from which one could justify calling CPS.
Yes.
They are not themselves a justification for CPS.
No, but I'm not making that claim. I didn't make that claim.
But the whole point of raising this is to say the mere fact that someone has that opinion, you should not carry with that the intent that they want to actualize the state of affairs in which CPS is in fact called. And what I'm calling out is the notion that people will claim that based on these statements that they were advocating it happened.
But she didn't present it as an opinion. She presented it as a fact. Ethan's kids are being severely neglected, they're playing in shit, and they're contracting diseases that might kill them. And that is why. That is why I'm trying to demonstrate. You said before that her
15 more minutes. I can hang in there.
lack of moderation was negligent. And I'm trying to demonstrate why it was negligent. It's because
bring it up 2.5.
What she said. Somebody who's watching her stream, who takes her as a good faith actor, who takes.
Why is there no change? Excuse me? Why is there no change when I put it at 2.5?
Rather, word might feel justifiably concerned about Ethan's kids.
What?
Because they're lying.
That's true if anyone who even watches the video at all, even to do the bare minimum of criticizing the view. The mere
No,
fact that someone could
stop.
doesn't mean
Come
that
on.
it's likely.
It's not the same thing, bro. If you're watching the video and criticizing it, you're saying, well, you know, it's the same thing. Like her saying, no, your kids are gonna die. It's not the same thing, man.
If you keep running into the same wall, I'm gonna bring it up every time. You don't need to show that the mere, like, it's possible that someone could have that interpretation. What you need to show is that they either intended it or that it's extremely likely that it would occur given those statements. I just don't see a case for that. But that's we haven't reached the lawsuit aspect. It's just like I think this is an insanely harsh standard. And I'm not just saying that because they're fucking lefties. Fuck them. And they did this shit with fucking Kamala and whatever. I don't think they endorsed Kamala and all this other shit about the election. I'm not here. I'm just here because I'm noticing shit and it's making people upset. That this kind of standard of moderation, where they're responsible for the substantive acts because they fail to moderate responsibly, that is a standard that ought not be applied to people across the board, and it is not applied to people.
So she was negligent, but she has no responsibility.
She is negligent to the extent of violating the obligation to minimize risk. Because I think there's some amount of risk. Okay. What she's not culpable for is the actual calling of CPS. That's what she's not culpable for. They are making the claim.
Who said that she like called CPS? Who's saying that?
No. Culpable for the CPS call doesn't mean she literally called CPS. All right. Culpable means morally responsible for the CPS call.
She's obviously ethically responsible to moderate her audience and to be responsible with her rhetoric,
I agree with that.
like every other creator. And there were very serious consequences that happened as a result of actions that they all took. They all did it. All of them did the same thing. And they're all, in my opinion, responsible for that.
As though they're intentional actors here. And I don't think you would ever apply that standard to anybody. No.
You think this is about the fact that they're like lefties? That's what this is about, really?
If I call, so for example, I call a bunch of MAGA people in the administration and these influencers fascists.
Someone
reasonably take that as we should kill them.
No, we have a different opinion about reasonableness here, because fascism is a real thing. There's descriptors. You can make the case in this, that, and the other thing, and then you can also make the case that the difference again is that like there is no element of you even remotely implying that it would be justified to do political violence. The difference between that and Denims is that she did lay out her justification.
You mentioned there's some work being done.
Justification, an attempt at a sincere justification to involve.
You wouldn't say because I called Charlie Kirk a fascist. Now someone could take that statement and believe it's true and then justify the action against Charlie Kirk. But I am not justifying. I know this is what Republicans do, right? They think because I called Charlie Kirk a fascist, that I am saying he should be killed. But that's an inference that I make. The scope of my claims are the scope of my claims. Now there could be instances in which one could imply it. I'm not a literalist, okay? And don't try to paint me as a literalist. I'm not a literalist. But from what I saw of Denims, there is not even an implication there that what she wants to see, what she wants to actualize, is the state of affairs in which CPS is called. And even Ethan has backed away from that claim, as I understand.
But nonetheless, her and all of them contributed in their own ways with their own communities.
Charlie Kirk.
No, I don't find this analogous at all.
Can you explain why they're different?
Because you are trying to make the case that it is plausible that she didn't see what was going on in her chat. Like you're trying to, and I don't accept that. I don't find that plausible.
Pisco defends Denims and Ethan CPS trauma more like bridge burn imminent, or some title like Pisco, Hutch, something about bridge burning. Okay, that'll get a lot of views.
I think that's ridiculous. I think she obviously saw that, and I suspect that's why she started to go down that road rhetorically, even talking about that. I think she was bouncing off of them at that point. I think that is the logical inference.
What I'm telling you is, a Republican can come
and honestly, that's not too inaccurate at this point.
Back and say, listen, I don't care. Pisco didn't moderate his chat when they were calling Kirk fascist. There were people in his chat saying Kirk is a Nazi.
No, that's not the same.
No, why not? Explain why.
To make it the same, you would have to have people in your chat that were saying we should unalive Charlie Kirk.
Explicitly.
Yes.
Explicitly. And if the case is that and if I see that and don't moderate the thing, I'm responsible for Kirk's death. I want to hear you say that.
I would say in that moment that you were responsible for contributing to a culture of political violence. Yes, I would say that about you.
So without any evidence that Tyler Robinson, that first of all, that my contribution.
No, we would have to not know. We would have to not know who shot him for this to be obvious, right?
So at the time, I saw someone say kill Charlie Kirk, and I'm just like, whatever, I'm not gonna ban this guy. At that moment, I'm contributing to a culture that could cause the death of Charlie Kirk and so on.
Pisco defends Pixie, which is more frivolous than what? Bridge in flames over Pisco Hutch confrontation on Denims, or RIP : Hutch Bridge in flames : no, Bridge in flames, bridge burn : bridge burn : Pisco defends Denims. Pisco simp Pisco defends Denims. Whatever. Macabezzo comes.
I see where you're going with this, but but in that moment you would be.
It's a careful art, okay?
Contributing in your own way. I think that is like a much more kind of abstract kind of situation here, because Charlie Kirk has the attention of like so many other people. So it's almost like infinitely bigger than what we're talking about right now. Whereas what I'm talking about is a very specific group of like a dozen people who were all pushing the same thing about this situation. But I would say in that moment that you were being irresponsible. I
grant that though. I grant that. But the question isn't, am I being irresponsible? I keep going to this.
All right, we're quibbling about like culpability. We're quibbling about the word culpable.
That's precisely what we're doing.
It's a difference of opinion. I think we've reached a point where it's just like agree to disagree. I do think you have a responsibility, and I think they all danced and joked about this situation. It was fucking disgusting.
Don't say it like I don't think they have a responsibility. You just just heard me acknowledge that I think they have a responsibility
He's
for
also
moderating and
worked on a
applying standards of decency
lawsuit?
and whatever, and all that stuff. What I'm saying isn't that they don't have a responsibility. What I'm saying isn't that they don't have a responsibility. What I'm saying isn't that they don't have a responsibility. What I'm saying is they don't have a culpable responsibility for the specific malicious act underneath.
No, but you just said a moment ago. You just said a moment ago that there's a non-zero chance that Denim's rhetoric and behavior that day indirectly led to it happening. You said there was a non-zero chance, right?
There's a non-zero chance that yours did, right?
No, there's not. You would agree. You agree that there's a significant difference.
Is there a non-zero chance yours did?
What would you estimate are the chances that it came from my audience versus Denim's?
You apply.
I want you to answer that question.
Yeah, so I think that yours is probably smaller, but you
How much
apply
smaller? I want to give me a percentage.
probably given the scope of your audience and your statements, you know, in my opinion, significantly smaller. But
No, I want a number. I want a number. What's the percentage likelihood that it came from my audience versus Denims? If you had to pick numbers.
I think orders of magnitude, maybe
Okay,
something like
then stop, man. Come on.
But Hutch, listen to my thing. You said that a sufficient condition is non-zero chance. That's your standard. So I acknowledge
Jesse,
that
listen to me,
the
Jesse.
between your audience and hers.
Jesse,
But what you said,
Jesse.
right? I'm just reflecting your standard.
Jesse,
What you said
listen
to me.
to me.
I just want to remind you.
Jesse.
You said, but you acknowledge there's a non-zero chance. And so I come to you. Well, you agree in your case is a non-zero chance. And so you say, well, isn't there a difference in this? Yeah. But so we have to actually get in the weeds about what we think is significant.
But do you know why?
Get in those weeds.
No, but no, we can. There's a big difference here in this situation because you know why I'm not culpable. You know why I could rest my head at night knowing that I didn't contribute to it because I never fucking made the claim that it was justified to call CPS, and I never would ever. No matter how much I dislike Trader, I would never ever allow my chat to do that.
You said you're not culpable because you didn't make the claim that it would be justified to call CPS.
And I actively moderate my chat.
Did Denims? So I'll just ask them one time. Did Denims make the claim that it would be justified to call CPS? Did you make the claim? Did you make the statement?
Why are we circling back to this for the fourth time now? The three factors? We're back there. We're back there now.
These are like ad hoc factors that you've created. That it's
ad hoc. What are you talking about? They're not relevant. What do you mean?
They're outcome oriented. They're outcome oriented. They're the three sacred factors.
It's over. Nah, dude. This is God. Oh God, guys. I know. Listen to me, okay? I know a bridge burn debate when I see one. Like, even if they don't officially burn the bridge after this, I don't think they'll ever be amicable over shit like this again. I don't think there's no way. Either Hutch's feminine wiles will prevent him from doing anything, or straight up Pisco is too egotistical to do anything. All right, like either one of these will prevent them, or both will prevent them from ever interacting with each other in a normal way ever again. I don't think so. I know how Pisco's ego works, and I know how Hutch's feminine wiles work. Okay?
What you think, for the purpose of getting to the results you want, those are the ones that matter to you. But the three
they matter just because they matter, bro. I'm telling you why she was irresponsible.
Okay, but hang on. I grant that it was irresponsible.
I'm telling you how she was negligent.
I don't know why you keep doing this, right? I granted in the first second that it was irresponsible. Do you remember when I granted that in the first second? Do you remember that? I'm asking that question.
Yeah, but I can't reconcile it with everything else you're saying, though.
Because you really don't see a difference between ethical responsibility versus one obligation with respect to your moderation and the responsibility for the underlying malicious act. You really don't understand the difference between those two.
I mean, I recall earlier in this conversation, you were saying like she didn't have an ethical responsibility to moderate her chat, and now it sounds like you're seeing a difference soon.
I never said that, Hutch.
Well, we'd have to go back in the fucking stream. I'm pretty sure you said that.
Go in the VOD.
Pretty sure.
Go in the fucking VOD, man. So I was consistent. You said, does it increase the risk? Yes. Is there an ethical obligation? Ought she do it? I said, yeah, she ought not play that. Actually, I'm going to ask you. Do you remember when I said that she should not have played that bad and clip? Do you remember when I said that?
Not really. My brain's mush.
You don't. So like, why? If you're not remembering.
No, it's because I'm frazzled because my brain is fried trying to walk you through my thinking here. And trying to like navigate your craftiness, your caginess, your lawyer tricks.
Yeah, you are. Their rights or infringements of privacy or malicious conduct. That those kinds of implications are different as between those two ethical obligations. That is a very simple, clean concept, and it's not confusing at all. And it ought not be confusing for you either.
Sorry, my stream is experiencing problems. It does this. I don't know why it's doing this.
We're back. Oh, I don't.
It's weird. It's the same time every day at like 3:30. I start dropping hella frames and it gets bad.
It's nuisance rolling.
You know what, Hutch? I know exactly what you're talking about.
Blackouts, man. These California people, they want to turn our country into Russia.
Hey, listen, at the end of the day, I think you think that Ethan's actions were disproportionate, and I already told you, like, I'm open to that. So I don't even know what we're arguing about. Like, I'm open to the idea that, like, and I don't have a good answer for you. You know, like, I don't know. I can't tell you if it's like too much or if it's appropriate. All I can tell you is that
Ethan.
If I was in Ethan's position,
oh my god, I spent so many hours trying to beat difficulty 10, dude. I spent so many hours trying to beat. I finally did it. Oh my god, hallelujah, hallelujah. We've done it. We've done it. We've done it. Hallelujah. Boom. Holy shit.
fully understand his desire to try to impose consequences.
You understand it, right?
Yes.
Wow. I understand that on Ethan's view, it's trivially obvious that he would understand that he would have that view because he's the one doing it.
And he'd be
justified
justified.
his view.
He'd be
On
justified.
your view, as you.
No, but I'm trying to give you the best answer I can, and I'm not trying to be a cop out. I'm not trying to give you a cop out answer. Like, I'm really not. Like,
but how it feels like you ever have those Israel-Palestine debates where people are like, I understand why Israel would do this. I understand if I was Israel, why they would do this. Or I understand why, or even from the leftist perspective, I understand why Hamas would do that.
Yeah.
If I was in the Hamas shoes.
I've had those conversations. I've said those words.
Who the fuck cares? Like, that's just trivial. It's obvious that if you're Hamas, you're gonna understand. You're gonna like have the sympathies that Hamas does, and same thing with Ben Gvir.
I've had those conversations. I've had literally those conversations. So like, I understand.
That is useless. Like masturbation. It's not like the question is.
I don't think it's useless. I mean,
our views.
No, I don't think it's useless because like, listen, like, there is no like science to this. You know what I mean? Like, there just isn't. We can't. You can try to appeal with like laws of logic and that kind of stuff, but like, there is no like explicitly correct answer here. And I am trying to be nuanced, and that's not me like trying to wiggle out of taking your position or whatever. Like,
Please, Foodie, let's watch them. No, we have to listen. I don't want to return to this tomorrow, okay? I do not want to return to this tomorrow. We have to finish it now.
I am sympathetic to like all the parties involved.
We have to, okay? It's at 2x speed. I'm in the mindset for it. We have to do it. We have to, okay? There's not a choice. We have to. All right.
Sympathetic to Denims these days, to be honest with you. I'm less sympathetic to her because I just, I don't know if you saw her recent stream, but it's a bit much. Like,
sympathetic for Kaceytron if you think she did this horrible thing that she's told
I'm not about to come back to this in the
for
future.
this awful. You called her sociopathic. You realize you called her sociopathic?
Yeah, I think she did.
Why would you feel sympathy for a sociopath? How do you feel that?
I feel sympathy for people that get the death
I'll cry. We're almost there. We're almost there.
penalty.
Okay?
I feel sympathy for people that are, in prison for the rest of their lives.
Sympathy for Hitler? Is that what you mean?
I mean, listen, you're really testing my morals here, but like, no, I do try to empathize with people that I don't even like. Like, I do have sympathy for people that have done terrible things.
Sociopaths that want to do horrible things in their malicious.
Sure, yeah.
And they want to take Ethan's kids away. You feel sympathetic for them.
Yeah, of course.
You don't want to ruin financially sociopaths who only produce malice and bad things in the world. I mean,
Depends on the day you ask me. Depends on the day you ask me and what mood I'm in, I suppose, right? Isn't that what it is to be a human being? Like, do we really have perfectly consistent kind of?
I guess,
like,
I'll get to this, Hutch. There are some times when I'm like, you know what? Hitler didn't choose to have the brain he did. These sociopaths, they are born / nurtured in a particular way that makes them the way they are.
Yeah.
For some reason, I didn't think that that's what you were talking about. That ultimately elastic version of sympathy when you were talking about Kaceytron. It seemed like you weren't sympathetic in the sense of, well, I'm sympathetic to all beings, regardless of what causes them. I thought that you were saying something more particular about her circumstances and like that don't have to do with like this kind of like ultimately totally expansive version.
It's like both of those things. Like, the idea of like everybody in her, I don't know if she's supporting her family. I'm not 100% up to date on her situation there, but no, I wouldn't like the idea of like her family, losing their home or something like that. If they were relying on her for income.
Overall, it's beneficial. Then like, okay, maybe you feel sympathy. Like, she deserves it. She deserves to have to pay.
He didn't do that.
My
No, I'm asking you. Like, do you think that she deserved what she got?
took me into the
Even though the
city
copyright has literally.
to see
Yes, yeah. I think she deserved that little walk of shame. Yeah, I think she earned that. I'm glad she doesn't have to pay money for the rest of her life.
I think she deserves that insincere apology. Do you often like people to give insincere apologies and get gratification out of it?
What kind of question is that? It's not a very normal thing that comes up in life.
I don't know why people get like satisfaction out of these like fake apologies that aren't actual like, justice. Maybe in the sense of like, if I was pushed that what they did was like truly horrendous or whatever, the mere fact that it's maybe it is a deterrent effect of some kind. But that's just going to ground out into our priors about and evidence for the purpose of the lawsuit. So maybe that's what why there's a decision.
Well, do you think that there should have been any consequences for what they did?
For copyright infringement?
No. Well, sure. I mean, I don't know. That's a separate discussion. I don't care about that discussion. But like, I'm talking about this. I'm talking about
Isn't
this.
that the whole purpose? Like the whole purpose is whether or not we agree with the lawsuits, and the lawsuits are about copyright infringement. Like,
it's about the lawsuit specifically, but it's more about just this idea of like imposing consequences on somebody who violated your family. Isn't that what it's about?
Yeah, but you don't agree with beating them up.
Sure, I obviously think that I don't think they should be killed. Either.
You don't think so much, I mean, you don't think it's so much call CPS on them, right?
No, I don't. No, I think that was really bad.
You have your
No,
line.
answer the question. Like, should there be any consequences, right? Like, doesn't need to be legal, but like some accountability, some kind of punishment, some kind of something, right?
Yes, they should get like a slap on the wrist from Twitch.
All right, then that's the disagreement. Just the severity of it. Like, we agree that she did a bad thing and she deserved consequences. We disagree.
Right? Like, you should moderate your chat more so they're not actively calling for CPS. That's
and you definitely should not be joking about it after the fact.
It should be proportional and
Can we watch the Lollip YouTuber cover this debate too? There's no way she covered
tailored
this.
to the kind of thing we're talking about here. That's number one. And number two, separately, if someone is being deceptive,
He settled though.
What?
He didn't make her destitute. All she had to do was apologize. All she had to do was get up there and prostrate herself a little bit and apologize.
So the
Please don't tell me she's actually interested in still becoming a debater, please.
apology was extracted by what?
She had leverage.
It was coerced by financial
There's no
motivations, correct?
Because she violated copyright, correct?
Yeah. That don't relate in sum or substance to the underlying claim. Fair?
No. Again, I think it's both. Like, I think he genuinely does care about like lazy react, and I think he felt. But if I had to guess, I really don't know. If I had to guess, I would say he was probably more motivated by the abuse that his family suffered as a result of like culture that arose out of all of their communities.
Yeah, maybe. Don't you agree that he wanted them to infringe?
Yeah, I think so. I think he was setting a trap.
Yeah. So in what sense can you say he wanted to punish them for infringement and that this was a bad thing that was done to him?
It was an easy, predictable thing.
He wanted, but you're saying he wanted it to occur.
Yeah.
Right. So the harm.
Yeah, but wanting something to occur, like I might want a bad.
A martini, shaken, not stirred.
Monkey goes OOOAHHAHHAHHOOOAHHAHHOOOAHHOOOAH.
You know what? You are spitting some hard facts there. Thank you for the 2 AUD.
Thing to happen because I think a better thing will follow that bad thing. Like we're confronted with this in politics all the time, right?
Right. So that's my point. That the thing that is achieving the better results isn't the grounding for the basis of what's going on. It's the pretext. It's a pretext. Do you agree it's a pretext?
No, it is to a certain degree. But again, we disagree because I think it's both. I do think he does genuinely care about lazy react. He obviously cares about it. He's had a history of caring about it. He confronted X3's about it, talked about it on his podcast all the time. So clearly this guy was already, like, he does like give a fuck about that, right?
I mean, I grant that at least at some point he did care about the React community, that he did care about copyright infringement. What I deny is that this lawsuit is motivated by that concern.
But where's your certainty though? Where do you get the certainty?
It's based on my what I think are reasonable inferences on a set of evidence. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, but you have to explain, like, so like you acknowledge that he has a history of talking about lazy react and he definitely cares about that, right? Okay,
that's
all that is gone.
No. That is part of my rationale for why it isn't motivating this. So the fact that he has a track record here is not helpful for him in this context, given the nature of what his stated rationale was. It's hurtful. And that seems preposterous to you. I can explain why.
I'm a little stuck on your thing of like, oh, well, why would you want the bad thing to happen when you're against the bad thing? But it's like, you could use that logic to say like, well, like, why did the FBI do a sting operation where there was a drug transfer, like selling drugs is bad, right? So that doesn't make any sense. Do you understand that logic is a little flawed?
What logic? I mean,
you're saying like, well, how could you say he's, he says he's against the thing, but he trapped him to do the thing? And it's like, well, I don't understand.
Listen, what I'm saying is, if you have a prior principle that one upholds and one sticks to
I mean, you would then have to be against catching pedophiles. You would then have to be against FBI agents pretending to be children online in order to catch pedophiles. You would then have... I want to see him concede to that. I want to see him concede to that. Like, fine. You want to play this game, we can play it. Like, okay, yeah. I mean,
then I think that justifies an inference that one is maintaining the principle. But if there's as opposed to a blank slate, if there's a previous principle and that one makes statements either in contradiction or that undermine that principle previously stated, I think that most people, in view of those, what I take to be an inconsistent.
He has to bite down that bullet,
of previously stated principles. The inference usually from that is indicative of more deceit, right? A prior inconsistent statement and statements that don't make sense in light of each other. That from that, I think normally people intuit deception. Okay, this is not like
he's being deceptive when setting a trap. Sure,
well, not really that. I mean, that I think at a bare minimum you have to establish. And
also, the issue with that, like you're deceptive when you set a trap for like vermin in your garden. You know what I mean?
No, I understand that.
Damn, Hutch. He just called them vermin. Oh my god. Dark Hutch arc coming, dude. Copium. He's never going to become Dark Hutch because he'll always be a moderate appealing loser. Absolute moderate appealing loser.
That there are contexts in which deception can be justified. All right, that's not what I'm suggesting. The deception that I think is not justified is what he's stating to the audience, and this is the what he's stating to the audience. That part of the reason, one of the main reasons, in fact, for bringing this lawsuit is to set a precedent to protect the destruction of the React community as we know it from absolutely shattering precedent that Disney or Sony could set. Those are his words, Hutch. Do you believe those words?
I have no reason to disbelieve them explicitly, to be honest. No.
Okay, the reason I disbelieve them is because A, they're not plausible. They're not plausible at all. The notion that Ethan might think that suing like Denims and Kaceytron and Frogan would at all affect the nature of Disney and Sony suing and establishing terrible precedent, that is preposterous. The more outlandish the more unlikely it is that someone actually holds it. That's only part. I mean, there's so much more.
What if he's just wrong then? That wouldn't mean that he's lying. Like, what if he believes it but is wrong?
I understand that by itself it doesn't necessarily prove to 100% certainty or even fucking 90% certainty that's what's going on. That's just part. I'm building blocks, right? And you have to look at the wall as a whole, at the totality of circumstances. So the first piece of evidence is the rank and plausibility of the claim. The notion that someone who's fairly learned about copyright infringement, this guy had lawsuits regarding copyright infringement that he's lost before, I think, and he's also won against the bold guy. That he has this view that this intentional stated malice is the sine qua non of copyright infringement. The kind of way that he presents it in the video is preposterous. One is as a legal matter. Second, the notion that someone like that Ethan Klein thinks that when he establishes precedent on fair use, given his view that the vast majority of these kinds of React channels, if there's rampant theft, what he calls theft of intellectual property, that any kind of decision, any kind of legal decision, either from a legal precedent perspective, that legal precedent is going to protect the React community as opposed to significantly curtail the current meta, which is overwhelmingly infringing, is ludicrous. He must know that in pressing a claim on a reaction video, he is going to give the court an opportunity to opine on the 4 fair use factors. By the way, not exhaustive, but 4 main fair use factors.
I read them yesterday.
In such a way, right. So, for example, for purpose and character of the work, usually the main focus of the inquiry there is transformation. Any precedent on summary judgment or dispositive motion related to whether this is transformative or whether there's the character purpose of use side on the side of fair use, the court in coming to these determinations go through all the factors, and they're going to go factor 1. This is not transformative. It's not transformative because look at the percentage of the video, look at how much commentary is in there, commercial purpose. Is this providing sufficient commentary? How many portions of it include commentary such that you actually need this? And the tests start to merge because the purpose and character of the use merges with like the amount of substantiality. Here, Denims used all of it. She used a part of the work. Was that necessary to the nature of her critique, especially when she's saying, this amount of time kind of giving just blithe remarks? Look at this precedent from SDNY, this judge in previous cases where it's more like a watch party as opposed to deliberately slice things. Anyone with a single brain cell, and Ethan surely knows this, knows that these courts, they go 1, 2, 3, 4. And those factors aren't just going to bear poorly on Denims. It's going to bear poorly on the React meta as a whole. The specific thing he's saying, he has no intention to undermine. And that is with respect to
wouldn't it be the purpose and character of the use? Wouldn't that be the key consideration here?
The stated intentional malice? Fuck no. There's a case called Warhol, and what Sony Sotomayor in the majority writes is that purpose and character of use is an objective factor. It is not subjective. That the mere statements of the artist don't make a particular purpose or character of use a particular thing or not. That case was decided recently, and there's certain statements from old cases like Harper and Rowe from the Supreme Court that suggest that like good faith might play a role in an analysis. But in the most recent precedent on SCOTUS in the Warhol decision, they said it's an objective inquiry. It's not about intentional stated. Like you can say, so for example, it would be like saying the following, right? At the start of your stream, you go, this is transformative, this is fair use, therefore it's fair use and transformative. The mere statements of an individual is not part of the analysis at all.
Okay. All right. Now I'm curious. Do you even disagree with Ethan that there is rampant sort of abuse of copyright?
Of course not. No.
You don't agree with that?
No, I don't disagree with that.
Okay, so
that's why I think that's one of the reasons that this is disingenuous.
Okay, so you don't disagree that there's rampant abuse of fair use but you
as exemplified by
don't,
XQC, Asmongold, Hassan Piker, all these people.
So what is your ideal remedy here? To write new laws to expand fair use, or because you're saying you don't want them to come back with a decision that will like fatally chill the React community so as to basically like destroy it. So like what is your preferred remedy to the situation?
I just want to be clear. It doesn't bear on what I think the deception is.
I just want to know, because if you don't disagree,
curiosity, I do think that the current law is such that these React streams are basically 80% infringement, and I think that there ought to be new laws that clarify the scope of reaction videos. Maybe they're platform specific. Maybe they have certain sets of factors. But no, I don't think that in fact the current laws as they are would be approving of the kinds of content that you're seeing from all these React streamers.
Yeah, it's like when video games first started showing up on YouTube stuff. Technically, all those gaming companies could have filed copyright claims, and they still could today. In fact, they do sometimes. I think Nintendo has done it.
What do they do, Hutch, when there's an infringement?
They take the video down. There's like a DMCA claim. They take the video down, right? Yeah. So like, but the thing with the video games is like they all realized that they would probably make more money if they just allowed YouTube content because
getting
all these views or whatever. And so there's been
some have chosen not to press potential claims they have.
The vast majority.
I would say most go through the DMCA.
Done.
For video game stuff? No, definitely not.
To the extent that there's infringing content.
Well, it's all infringing. That's the point. Like anytime you post a video of like yourself playing Call of Duty.
To the extent that there's infringement and they have a desire to take action, what they do is they don't follow a lawsuit. They have a DMCA takedown.
Right.
So the notion that setting precedent, it's an additional reason that this isn't plausible. The notion that setting precedent in the form of a legal ruling, which by the way, now he's settling, which he isn't achieving. So I guess I don't know what precedent it is, but to the extent that there is any precedent, it's not going to curtail these kinds of the main enforcement mechanisms of things like Disney and Sony, which is not through lawsuits, it's through DMCA takedown notices that people don't contest, and that they are able to take down shit. So like it's not in any respect protecting only a fool, only someone who's so deranged and it really has no understanding would think that this had any effect on what Disney or Sony is going to do. And that's even further emphasized by the fact that he's settling with fucking Kaceytron for marginal amounts in which there's no fucking precedent that's been established, other than he leaned on people for apologies that don't relate in any respect to the kind of thing that he's talking about in the initial video.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between you and me is that and you might be right, that's what he did. Like maybe he didn't get, it had nothing to do with copyright. And I guess the difference between you and me is like, that does not bother me in the way that it bothers you.
So if the only intention was to make these people...
Right, and I think that's the core part of this, right? And I think it's especially telling. I think that is like one of the most telling moments of this entire thing, right? Because ultimately, if you have a bunch of lefty friends and you have essentially been groomed into a very pro-Palestine position, I would wager that you're going to be finding any argument, any kind of angle to go at Ethan Klein at, right? So to Hutch, he concedes that Pisco might be right. That, oh yeah, maybe this isn't about copyright after all. This is about spite, right? But to Hutch, the spite reason isn't that big of a deal, right? Because guess what? It's just not that big of a deal because they did a lot of shitty shit, right? So of course it isn't that big of a deal because they already did a bunch of shit stuff, right? But to Pisco, he probably feels like this is the biggest deal in the world because Straight Rate is pestering him about it or something. So that's my read. Okay. But yeah.
Destitute, and he's lying, or to impose a punishment for the other statements that
Well,
don't relate to
clearly he didn't want to make her destitute, right? Like you settled, right?
If the purpose is not to protect the React community, but it's instead only for something that he is not at all in any respect to protect the React community, if that's the case, you would have a problem with it. Wouldn't you? I thought you said that lying in general is bad.
No, I didn't say, no. I said precisely the opposite. I said not all lies are created equal. And this particular lie, because it's kind of content at the same time, right? Like he's got his own retribution, his own kind of cause of retribution, and it's also like this. It's like a spectacle all at the same time. And so, no, I don't.
It affects moral calculus that it's a spectacle. I mean, a lot of things could be spectacles, and I don't know how that. What does that affect the intuitions here?
I'm saying that it's like a show. It's like I think he wanted to publicly punish these people. And I understand why he feels that way.
That's my point. So we agree.
Right. I don't know if I ever disagree with that, but like I don't see that as necessarily a bad thing. The only
lies about it is protect from Disney and Sony when it's so clearly not. And also, it's specifically not on the ground that he states, which he couldn't have predicted at the time he set the trap, of intentional stated malice. That is certainly not what he was planning to do when he set the trap. So in order to even buy that was in his mind, you have to acknowledge that he changed his mind about which precedent he wanted to set in between when he set the trap and when they did it.
Maybe he's all over the place. Maybe he convinced himself. Maybe he's lying. Maybe it's just
this is ultimate charity. This is ultimate charity to Ethan Klein that you don't apply in the slightest to the people that you hate.
I don't think that's true. I don't have enough information. Like I could reach out and ask him, but like I don't pry to that level. Like I just don't know, and I don't know him.
I want him to acknowledge. All right, this is what I want. What I want him to acknowledge is basically, okay, it's not true. When I started with this whole React stuff, this isn't about that.
Guys, next time on stream, the final level. Laboratory 0, level 11. This is as hard as this game can get, okay? Oof. Okay.
It's not about protecting from Sony and Disney. That was wrong when I said that,
man.
and I was, that really wasn't at all motivating me. That's what I think.
Isn't that kind of implied when he settled with Kaceytron, and now it looks pretty likely that he settled with Frogan as well? Isn't that kind of implied?
So what you just said isn't implied that it isn't at all motivating him when he settles?
So you're mad that he lied? That's what this is? Like that seems like such a minor part of this entire story.
I'm mad that he lied, and also, even though I don't think it's a legal bar to bring the claim, I actually think it's chicken shit to use the copyright statute to settle scores, even if it's a valid claim. I'm saying even if it's a valid claim, I think it's chicken shit and wrong to use the copyright statute to primarily like settle scores on unrelated matters. If you felt
like somebody abused your family, like actually abused your family, like very substantively, impactfully abused your family.
Well, one, I think you have to raise to a certain level of misconduct, and then it's going to ground out into what we're talking about before. You could see, yeah, exactly. But second to that, I think that like if they abuse, you should like sue them for the abuse of conduct. You should do the thing that's tailored to the issue. I'm not a big fan of these pretext shit, and I especially don't like that it's kind of sullying my image of Ethan as a defender of copyright, the same copyright approach, which he did, right? It was beautiful, magical when he was attacking XQC for his garbage, malicious conduct, which it was. And Ethan Klein says it was intentional siphoning when XQC did it. And so I don't buy this thing. It's like, I don't mind thieving. What I mind is when you say you're thieving. That's what really bothers me. Like this shit is bullshit. And I have this very positive view of Ethan Klein as one of the best people of like lay people and influencers on copyright. He would always jump to have like a calibrated take that wasn't far lefty, get rid of all intellectual property, get rid of copyright, get rid of patents. It's all theft. But he didn't go as far as like XQC saying like, or sorry, the opposite of saying we should enforce all the time and there should be no room for fair use, that kind of thing. I really appreciated that. And this sullies my image of it. And don't try to fucking, and also personally, if we're gonna go by malice, calling me Mike from PA, dude, what the fuck? And then also, by the way,
wait, did I say that?
No, not you. He did. He quote tweeted you, not too dissimilar to how you quoted Taylor Lorenz. We need to talk about that, by the way.
Wait, when did he quote?
Yeah, he probably is never gonna get over that. Holy.
When did he quote tweet me? Ethan did?
Yeah, well, on Insta, and then he basically said, "What is this dude? Like Mike from PA? You didn't stand up for me then." Just saying.
I don't think I saw that. Did I see that?
Okay, but he's basically comparing me to some locale, and or people would consider local.
Yeah, okay, I mean, this kind of gives the game away, right? It kind of gives the game away that that he's spite driven, in a sense, right? Pisco is spite driven, right? He's spite driven. He is. That's why he projects. That's why he projects onto Ethan Klein. But I believe that Ethan Klein is also spite driven. I believe that Ethan Klein is also spite driven, but Pisco himself is also spite driven. But he still projects that. But the reason why he calls Ethan Klein spite driven is, in addition to the evidence, he's also projecting. Right?
Who never actually, as I understand, was admitted to the bar, implying that I'm not a real lawyer, implying that I'm, misrepresenting myself, whatever. And basically,
I stick up for you, bro. I do.
I'm saying, like that happened, and
that's. I don't, first of all, I'm not.
Fuck you, Ethan, like, have a conversation with me, or Dan Sullivan, have a conversation with me.
I mean, I would like to see you guys have a conversation.
Hell yeah.
But you know,
for the record, okay, I just want to say I would love to see Pisco crush Dan Saltman. Okay, I'm still gonna say, like, this is a really ridiculous. This is a really ridiculous debate. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, like, this is crazy. But yeah, I would still pay money to see Pisco destroy Dan Saltman, okay? Just for my own vanity, okay? Just so then I can feel good, all right? Just so then I can get my fair share of cinema, all right? I'm a very vain and spiteful person too, okay?
About moderation, like sometimes our spicy interactions evoke strong opinions in my chat, and you can ask my chat, I tell them all the time. Like I tell them all the time that we need to compartmentalize. Like for me, I'm a big boy, I know you're a big boy, I know you like the intellectual exercise of arguing, it's fun.
Just a reminder that Dan no longer want to touch me, okay? I criticized him recently, and, well, I think Dan's afraid of me. I think that's what's going on, okay?
For you in the same way that it is for me. You've sharpened your brain a little bit more than I have in terms of like all the legal stuff, but like I tell
fuck around and find out.
My chat all the time, like when that argument is over, we're good. And so like I try in my own little way to manipulate and dissuade people in my chat.
I guess we're good. But all I'm saying is like I understand that people kind of have this question: why is he spending so much time on it? Part of it is because, as I think about it more, I just do think that there are certain standards that we should expect from our creators. And I think in most cases, I give you, for example, like the Tim Pool example, where let's say that you're reacting to something and it was clearly copyright infringement, and he's just trying to fuck with you because you said something about Russia. Like we would all stand up for you and be like, hey, if you have a problem with what Hutch said about the Russia thing, why don't you address it? Why don't you actually have that conversation? And we would all kind of stand. And so I'm just trying to say, like, how would we react to this kind of tactic? And in general, most people would be against it. The one situation where we would be in favor of it, if there's some really just like predominating fucked up shit that these people did to a certain degree of threshold. And what I've heard from people with respect to their misconduct is in the realm of, I'm just sorry to say, it's not this kind of like we're extolling you to call CPS, maybe bad empanada, so sue bad empanada on that stuff, but I haven't seen the evidence for these people to suggest that like they rise to that threshold where I would kind of be accepting of this tactic. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about, but it is a kind of tactic that I find unsavory, and I think it's wrong. But you can disagree, man.
I mean, I hear that, I hear that, and I also know that if somebody, like Esme's pretty insulated from internet stuff, thankfully there's been some weirdos that have reached out to her, like, but if I felt like an entire collective community like pulled together and started attacking her and making her life like really bad, and I had leverage, I would probably use that leverage to try to like push back against those people, whether it's like legal leverage or whatever. Like I think I would be similarly compelled to take action to try to punish those people for hurting her. So that's what I think about more. Like that's where my mind goes.
Okay, so if that's what's going on, then don't give us this whole like. And if you're trying to bait them into something where you would have leverage, which was his plan, I don't want to hear this implausible story that. Also, coincidentally, magically, I was thinking about the broader React community. If that's what it is, at least let's be honest about it. You know, that's all I want. And if people say I don't give a fuck what Pisco's saying, just you can say that, but then don't dispute it, right? Then don't dispute it and just rant it and say I just don't care because they're good targets and they ought to be for what they did to Ethan punished in this way. At least be honest.
And again, I'm not speaking for Ethan. I don't have any special insight. I don't know if that's the thing that motivates him. Like I can't. I'm just saying, like if that was the case, if he was motivated, I could understand that impulse. But
why hasn't he? Can I ask you a question? Why hasn't he celebrated this as a massive win for the React community?
I think it's likely that he was primarily motivated by a desire to punish those people. I don't find that controversial or.
Yeah, Hutch doesn't disagree with that.
I'm like, yeah, of course.
Hutch doesn't agree. Like you're arguing against someone who is not Hutch here. Like you're debating Hutch right now, okay? How about you go over the disagreements that you guys actually have instead of you like going off on your old man rants?
Where my mind goes, I think like, well, yeah, like obviously he would be compelled to do stuff like that.
If you thought that this was a massive win that just vindicated you and protected, we're saved. This helps us against Disney and Sony. Why isn't he doing those kinds of things?
Yeah, again, my guess is that he was more motivated by retribution. That's what I guess. But I gotta go, man. It's a long conversation.
Tomorrow Monday are we talking to Letterbox?
I think so. Yeah, I gotta reach out to him. But yeah. We'll set something up.
You know I love you, man.
I know, buddy. I love you too, buddy.
But I do want you to know that I don't want anybody to be fucking harassing you. I don't want people to do any of that shit. And I really do appreciate our back and forth. I think that they provide some life for lib&learn. And I again don't want anything negative directed your way from anybody.
Same to you. Enjoy your weekend. I'll talk to you in a couple of days.
You as well.
All right.
Hey,
bye.
Cool. Bye.
Oh, how do you make Hutch look like the correct one? Oh Lord, why don't we just cast myself into the abyss, never to be seen again? Why not just throw me into Tartarus and throw me into the lake of fire and oblivion. Why not? Why not just do that? I thought we would be good.